With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Today, the PRL's best when it comes to road racing heads to Brazil to see how they fare out in the closing stages of the campaign. Today, the GT Fixed and Sprint Series powered by VCO look to handle the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache and see if they can pick up some valuable points in the hunt for a PRL championship. Good evening, I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me in the booth tonight is Andy McEwen, for the producer Kari Manick, as we get ready to go racing at Interlagos. Andy, such a prestigious racetrack on the docket tonight, and a track that can really challenge competitors, but this is coming down to the wire for the schedule as a whole for both these series tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Just 3 weeks of racing remaining in these championships. We've already visited a whole host of fantastic racing venues, from the Red Bull Ring in Austria, Monza in Italy, the famous Spa in Belgium, and then the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit as well. Magny Cours, Daytona provided some brilliant racing and some really close finishes. And then a week ago, we were on the streets of Long Beach in California. Tonight, though, the racing coming your way from the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Brazil before we head to Road America in a week's time. And it all gets concluded on the tight and technical Okayama International Circuit in Japan.
Lots to talk about in turn with the point standings. We start things off with the fixed side of the card, where Michael Terrafino comes into tonight with the points lead over Michael Parabola. Here's the major thing to consider. 1 0-point drop available for the second place driver in Parabola. Currently, the drop weekend could be a calculation for the final few rounds for Terrafino. The key is simple. Have enough points for when the drop is factored in to hold on to the championship. Currently, that drop total for Terrafino is 20. Right now in this championship, Rexoy, Bellows, and Martinez, the top 5, with a tie for 6th between Kalaga and McKenzie. Michael Kalaga, right behind Eric, as well as in the hunt for the 5th on back positions. Rob Campbell and Dale Peterson amongst those competing in the top 10 of the standings. Also, keep in mind the respective team that has been very dominant in these fixed series competitors. It's got reflected by some of the drivers in this championship. Vulture Motorsports South and North, many of their drivers have populated the top 10. In fact, half of their team is in that top 10 of drivers. As we get ready for tonight's action, to remind you that tonight's action is brought to you in part by VCO, the virtual competition organization. It's also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Pro members also get a 5% discount on ASR products. Use the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. Casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Better priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. RaceSpotTV.com to get a 5% discount. Precision5 coupon code. Race Lab helps you improve your driving skills. Modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. Get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Microcard products include incredible immersion and bring realism to every game. Every nuance of choice, put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company for the Czech Republic. Goal to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. Looking for high-end pedal sets, handbrakes, sequential shifters? Visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. And by Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trade simulator and start tracking performance. Let's start tracking how qualifying's going. Just 3 minutes into the session, drivers have 4 sole qualifying laps, 10 total minutes. Set those respective times. The majority of the drivers are looking to complete their first flying laps on the racetrack tonight. Andy, when it comes to Interlagos, a lot you have to think about, but heat has been a major discussion point throughout the week. It's 131 degrees Fahrenheit, the track down, 85 here.
Yeah, that is pretty toasty, isn't it? And that will have an effect, obviously, on tyre performance during the race, but actually it might have some effect in qualifying as well. This new tyre model that's recently been introduced to the GT cars on iRacing, really temperature sensitive, and I think that the work the drivers do in the early stages of the race, that will have a knock-on effect on the tyre life they have late on in the race. But in qualifying, it's really tricky. The tyres are only in their ideal window for a very short space of time. It's not the world's longest lap, just over 90 seconds, but they won't get many laps in this session where the tyres are fully underneath them. So the drivers that end up near the front of the grid, they're going to be the ones who are able to switch those tyres on, switch themselves on straight away and perform immediately.
Papuano amongst those currently in the top 3 already with a bit of a slide coming through Senna S. Already within a couple tenths of a second to Andre Benetti's top time. Take a look at Michael Terrafino, the other championship contender though. Terrafino already in second and already looking to get things prepared potentially for a flying lap the next time around on the tires.
Yeah, and Terrafino really has been the qualifying king so far this season. We've had 7 qualifying sessions. He has topped 4 of them, and rarely is he off the front row. We haven't necessarily seen him have quite the same hit rate as far as race wins. He's had 4 race wins, but not all of them from pole position. So Terrafino looking to try and get to the front of the grid here. I think track position will be reasonably important here, but it is not the hardest track in the world on which to overtake. So anywhere on the front couple of rows, and I think the drivers will be satisfied.
Alluded to this a little bit when it comes to the team side. Martinez and company have been very quick as a unit this campaign. Both the Vulture Motorsports entries, South and North, top 2 in the team standings, have been very quick. 3rd spot in the team championship. It's left as a blank currently, but Lunatic Mode and Light Speed Racing has also done well for the team championship, as well as Team Beef entering the day. Others like Ryan Luna, just looking to set a time. 2 straight invalidated lap times for the 17.
Yeah, that's surprisingly easily done around here. I mean, a couple of common places. Interlagos, I suppose, is the main one. Easy to run wide on the exit of that left-hander and invalidate the lap time. Michael Terrafino definitely setting himself up for a quick lap. You saw he took the widest possible line through turn 15 to try and extend that flat-out section as far as possible and get himself into the groove. Be right on board with the BMW now. Just to correct myself, actually, he's had those 4 race wins. They were all from pole position, so every time that he's qualified on pole so far, he's managed to win the race. Let's see if he continues that here tonight.
An interesting note forwarded to a lot of competitors tonight from Papiano. He has now told drivers in Sim that he will not be able to make next season, intriguingly, due to scheduling of children. So in other words, one of the championship competitors may be looking to say goodbye for the time being for next season.
Well, that might mean that he's hungrier than ever to try and snatch the title, Michael Papiano. That one-on finish, really the only blot in his copybook. He's had a win, he's had 3 podiums, 2 other top 5s, and he's definitely a danger for the championship. And I reckon he might be extra motivated now, knowing that this might be his last chance for a little while to take a PRL trophy.
He'll keep an eye on his championship rival, Terrafino. Last time, set the 156 flat, trying to do a little magic on the tires. Nearly sending the tires off the racetrack there for a potential off-track. He's one of, in fact, just 2 drivers spotted tonight. Boy Brown on the box for the Team Beef machine. See what the time comes out to be for the 94. Less than 30 minutes to go in the session. A 1:34.1, good enough for the pole.
There we go, and by 0.2 of a second as well. In fact, we're seeing quite a bit of a spread in times at the front. 0.2 between Terrafino and Bonatti, and then another 0.4 back to Michael Papiano, who's jumped up into 3rd, Eric Kulaga 4th, and this man, Angelo Veloz, in the top 5 at the moment. One driver I noticed who is a lot further back than he should be is Matt Scherf. He was in the back end of the top 20 when I last checked. Matt has been a regular front runner, and indeed was a race winner back at Monza. So a couple of drivers a little bit out of position still as we head into these final couple of minutes.
One of the drivers for We Race Esports, and we go into the wall goes Angelo. Off and away going the Ferrari to end off the respective lap run, and a majority of drivers starting to complete the runs in turn. Take a look at one of the Porsches. This is Kevin Hansen, looking to move up from the 135.5.
Yeah, he's got one of those liveries on his car, guaranteed to confuse commentators. White from one side, red from the other. Depending on which camera angle we get, that may well confuse us, but it's a good-looking car. He too runs wide, actually, out of Jinsao, and that will really affect his run all the way up this hill. You're flat out for so long and accelerating steeply uphill as well. That's really something the Porsche normally does quite well, accelerating out of the tighter corners, so expect this car to go well through the second half of the lap, as long as he keeps all 4 wheels between the white lines. That is a small improvement, but probably could have been a bigger one had he not had that moment at the final turn.
Still good enough to move up inside the top 15. By the way, those colors are over the Canadian flag. Here comes Papilano. 135.4. Not an improvement. So his Lambo stays in the 3rd position. Qualifying just about to come to a close. Under a minute on the clock. You know, one of the final drivers coasting, Ryan Chandler, is the other driver you currently see, who has also done their qualifying run. So overall, 42 entries coming to Brazil. Keys to victory outside of making sure you don't do that during the green run.
Yeah, that's not terribly sensible, is it? We've seen a few races here in the past that have been perhaps not won at the first corner, but certainly lost in those first Senna S's. It's really difficult to get a big grid of GT cars through those first couple of corners, so surviving the start, as always, one of the keys to the race. And I do think we've touched upon it already. I think tyre management, that is going to be key, and trying to make sure that you've got some rubber left underneath you for the final run to the flag, because these races are often very close inside the final few minutes, and you need all of the grip available to fight for victory.
With that, the drivers have completed qualifying. 40 taking times. It's time to see how they'll start tonight. From Autodromo, Jose Carlos Pache. 2 of the top competitors in the championship amongst your front runners today. Terrafino starts on the pole alongside Benetti. Keep an eye on Papilano, who starts in 3rd. Eric Kulaga starts in 4th, the first of the Vulture entries, with Velo's in the 5th position. Rodrigo Morales starts alongside his teammate in 6th, then it's Andrew Vanello and Steven Martinez. Selden Hamilton starts in 9th for SGE, then it's Baron Glover in the 4X Motorsports car. A good run for him. Sully Sayad starts as the 4th highest running privateer with Regan Chandler in 12th. 13th went to Mark File, then it's Rexoy, followed by the Canadian-themed car of Kevin Hansen, then it's Aiden Irvin starting 16th. Henderson and Go Million in 18th. Back in 19th is Trevor Houston, then it's Michael Kalaga deep in the field today in 20th. Matt Sheriff starts 21st, then it's Rob Campbell, Dino Vella, and Waldo Walden. Where can we find him? From 24th. Greg Doucette, 25th position today. We've seen him earlier in the campaign with the Porsche. Alex Wright now dropping the S that we've seen for so long on his name throughout the series. Robert Deloche and Jason Lutridge. Nicholas Caragenda starts in 29th, and it's Matt Dinsmore in 30th. Back in 34th, Frank Johnson with Colin McKenzie, Ryan Chandler, and Felix Fellows back in 34th. Then it's Glenn Vanco deep in the field for Team Beat, 2 seconds off the pole, 35th, with Brian Hoskins. Once the final drivers with times, Drew Louise, Ryan Luna, Jordan Walker, and Greg Macaroni. Deep back, 3.3 seconds off. 2 drivers did not qualify. Lucio Vargas and Federico Carli both made the starting grid for tonight's race. Just the pace lap to be able to get us rolling before the green flag this evening. Who's your pick, Andy?
Well, that's a really good question. You wouldn't bet against Terrafino. Like I said, every time previously that he's qualified on pole position, he's managed to convert that into a race win. But Andre Bonatti, that's a really impressive qualifying effort. His season best qualifying, 8th on the grid, back at the very start of the season at the Red Bull Ring. So this is not a dissimilar circuit in a way, the long flat-out sections with the technical infield sections. So perhaps not a surprise to see him going well. And he's going to be hungry now with by far his best qualifying performance of the season, to try and convert that into his first race win of the season.
Run through John South before heading off to turn 14 to get us started. We're glad to have you with us, and we're glad you're with us as well on this Tuesday evening here on GT3 Fixed Series, powered by VCO. It's 8th round here from Interlagos. It's just about set to go. Terrafino on the left side, Benetti on the right side. Pace car and safety car ready to make its way to pit lane. One driver at the very back of the field, and Carly currently trying to catch it at full speed. Everyone else ready to hit the loud pedal themselves. Green flag waits up towards the stand. We're underway from Interlagos. And already 3-4 wide heading down the starting straight. Off the Senna S, a little bit deeper for Benetti on the brakes. The YS Motorsports Lamborghini on the left side tries to ride the curbing. Trying to clear on by, can't. Several drivers still 3 wide, making the way out of Senna S. But Terrafino already 1 second up as a result of the battle for second.
Well, they've already done a much better job getting through the Senna S's than some other GT championships I've covered recently. That was a perfect start, everyone getting through cleanly, but look at the way that Terrafino is scarpering already. Pabayano, though, through into second, and he is one of Terrafino's championship rivals, so he'll be very happy that he's cleared Andre Bonatti, but Andre not backing off. We have had an incident, 2 cars off, 2 Lamborghinis off, in fact 3 Lamborghinis and an Audi off as more cars start to appear out of the woodwork. There's been a fairly big shunt going down the back straight, but at the front, it's a nice clean start. This, though, is what happened further back.
Now let's take a look. This is the first major stack-up. Only Houston went off the track, and then this happened.
So that was the number 3 car, wasn't it? Matt Dinsmore getting turned sideways, and he comes back into the track off the barriers, and he collects 2 or 3 other cars. So Dinsmore, the black Lamborghini, the first to get spun, and unfortunately that's just the nature of that section of track. Those barriers are not far away from the edge of the road. Cars will ricochet off them and into the middle of the pack again. So a bit unfortunate there. Had another change for second, though, here, Justin, with Bonatti not hanging around, and he has found a way back ahead of Pabayano.
Well, to say, already more than a second up over the 101 machine to end off the first lap. 35 minutes, remember, on the clock for this respective side of the card. Right now, the estimated total around 20 or so laps today. Battle for third is on, though. Velo's in the Ferrari, looking to try and get in another position. Looking to light it up, coming out of the curve at the Sol.
Yeah, and Eric Kalaga not far back either in the Ford GT. That car continuing to perform remarkably well in this championship, far from the newest car on the grid, but still looking competitive. Down into the Descida del Lago they go, and there's no move coming this time from Veloth, so he stays in behind Pabiano. There you can see the Ford GT looking strong, a strong qualifying effort that from Eric. We've seen that car go well though at places like Daytona, for example, where there is a lot of wide open, flat out, high speed stuff, so not a huge surprise to see it going well here. I wonder though how well it will look after those tyres as the race starts to wear on.
The last time, once the drivers in Rats watching along with the action in turn, there was a lot of surprise on how well we perform. Remember though, the answer we got in terms of why run the 4 was, I'm looking to have fun in this series, so why not? He's already pulling away from Venero, who's getting pressured by Morales for 6th.
And you're guaranteed some TV time as well. If you turn up in a car that no one else is racing, especially a fan favourite like the Ford GT, then there's no surprise really that we see a lot of Eric Kulaga, but he's making it easy for us because he is running near the front. You can see there the temperature's dropped slightly since qualifying, so things just improving perhaps a little bit, but that's still very hot. Speaking of hot, so too the action for 3rd place as Angelo Veloz looks to the outside of Michael Pabiano into turn 1, but I don't think that's quite going to work.
It's not even making work on the outside of Senna S. And that's one of the major passing spots of the day today. The second best opportunity coming up here. Veloz wants to go defensive line again. Auto looking not to allow him on by. Near squeeze to the braking boards. YS Motorsports car nearly gets turned into on the apex.
Ooh, that was close, and this might give Kulaga a chance as well, because that really delayed Angelo Veloz, and he has lost momentum coming out of Descida del Lago. Will defend slightly towards Ferradura, but stays in line where he was. For some reason, Pabiano just seems to be struggling for pace, doesn't he? Made that early move on Bonatti, immediately lost the place again, and now struggling to hang on to 3rd as further back there is plenty of side-by-side action. But so far, Justin, I'm seeing lots of respectful racing, everyone giving each other room, and that's really important to do. It's not the widest of tracks here, quite easy to end up banging doors.
Looking towards some of the other drivers, line things up, one of the Vulture machines. And there has been trouble in the midst of this section of the racetrack. Several smoke puffs. Dino Vella, Kevin Hansen amongst those who are in through the grass. Longbridge also having some issues.
Okay, how's this all happened then? This is, I think, coming out of turn 8, isn't it? Yeah, so through Ferradura into the braking zone at turn 8. There's a bit of a dive bomb up the road. Is that what's going to trigger this? No, clean so far. Down through turn 9. So actually, it's happened there. There's a big stack up further ahead, and as cars start to slow down to avoid it, unfortunately, you get that natural concertina effect. So a bit of an unfortunate incident on the first Audi to go around, and really, as everyone else tried to stack up to avoid him, it caused more trouble.
Here's a look at Baron Glover, meanwhile, in the midst of all this. See some drivers going for the sends.
Ooh.
Trying to be aggressive, a little too much on the brakes.
Yeah, I don't think there was contact, was there? That was just as Dino turned across the nose of the car that he just passed, and yeah, maybe just touching the brakes downhill. That again is something I think with the hot track temperature we'll see a lot of. These cars can be a bit unstable under braking, especially if those rear tyres are getting a little bit too hot.
Troubles for some of those in the Forge colors today. In fact, some of them have found each other. Red versus blue, and blue went off circuit. Meanwhile, speaking of drivers who have found things, Nutty has now found his way up at the front. Pabiano has found himself a Gagula car still behind him. 5 seconds back in the leader now. Bellows, Eric Kalaga, Venero, Morales, and Hamilton are all in this choo-choo train right behind the Lambo.
Yeah, Bonatti, had been lapping quicker than Terrafino, but he suddenly lost a lot of time out of the final corner. That gap goes out, but this gap is as small can be, because Angelo Veloz again is pulling to the outside of Michael Pabiano across the start-finish line. That's the outside into the Senna S's. The Ferrari has its nose ahead, but that's not the preferred line, and Michael Pabiano knows how to defend a position. I'm surprised, though, Justin, at how defensive he's having to be. Pabiano just can't get that Lamborghini up to speed. He's doing well to hang on to 3rd place, but you wonder how long he can keep this up for.
Yeah, something has to give here with this aggression. Pabiano again, deep on the send on the inside. Veloz trying to cross yet again. This time has room to try it. Heading off towards turn 5 through turn 6. Next time around, he'll try the outside yet again. Fabiano, dead even on the brakes. Still has the preferred line. Heading off through 7 towards 8. Fabiano sees Velos slide up to the curbing. Has it back.
Oh, again, brilliant racing there. Fabiano left plenty of room for Velos on the outside because he knew that he had that preferred inside line. But you're right, something has to give here. I don't think that Fabiano is able to keep Velos behind for too much longer, especially because that queue of cars behind gets bigger and bigger by the lap, and that will only spur Angelo on to perhaps make a slightly more aggressive move. There you can see Kulaga in 5th, Venaro 6th, Morales 7th, and even in 8th position, Buck Hamilton completing this group of nearly 6 cars now running together. So at some point, I think Angelo Veloz will run out of patience here, and it's how aggressive he's willing to be. He's not going to get up the inside anywhere. It will have to be an inventive pass somewhere, but I think that's what he's going to have to do.
Oh, he tried to get a little inventive there, nearly all the way to the pit wall. Velos again deeper on the brakes this time. It's not worked out though on the outside grip. Velos again trying to line it up, this time trying to keep it alongside coming up through Curva de Sol.
Oh, that nearly worked, but Fabiano again just knows where to place that car, doesn't he? He's a brilliant defensive driver, leaving the space, not turning across in front of Veloz, but now you can see the problem. Kulaga's closing in and making this very much a three-way fight. What about a switchback here for Veloz? Can he get underneath the Lamborghini? No, he can't, and suddenly he has to start looking out of his mirrors as much as he's focusing on what's going on in front of him.
Something's gotta give here. You mentioned it there. They're losing 1 second every time they go side by side up to the Senna S, and that is holding everyone back to the point where they are nearly falling back into the Sead, Glover, Chandler, Rexoy final pack. So now it's the matter, how do you get this done? Because it's obvious going on the outside through Senna S isn't working. Trying to peel them off at the crossover hasn't worked. What's option 3?
I don't really know. I think his best chance is to try and just go a little bit later on the brakes into the Senna S and just force your way to the inside at turn 2. That's really the only option. Paviano's got him covered everywhere else. It's either that or it's a late lunge into either turn 8 or turn 10, Vico de Pato. That's very risky though. There's always the risk of contact. I think this is his best chance. Get the slipstream, pull to the outside, get a bit of a side draft maybe. Well, doesn't bother so much with that, but just try brake a little bit later than the Lamborghini. Doesn't work though. Look, Paviano is better on the brakes. He can afford to run a little bit wide there because the next corner's a right-hander, and then he just parks on the inside line through Curva de Sol, and there's absolutely nowhere for Angelo Veloz to go. This is brilliant driving from Paviano. He's doing nothing wrong, well within his rights to defend this place, and he's defending it well.
Absolutely strong defending amongst this. Now there's the cross again, this time a little bit wide though in the Lambo. Here comes Velos now to the left side of the track. Near contact, they do make contact. Paviano saves it down the straightaway. And how about that to move your way up to 3rd position? Eric Kalonka doesn't get the chance to jump. Instead, it's Velos who jumps up to 3rd.
Oh, and that was Morales really outbraking himself, trying to go around the outside of Venaro for 6th. I don't think he was trying to overtake, just got on the curb and went sliding straight into the corner. Well, that was one way to do it for Angelo Veloz. It wasn't the prettiest way, but he finally got past the Lamborghini. They definitely lent on each other coming out of Tessida de Laga. Here it is, look, you mentioned it there, really. Paviano made the mistake, ran wide, opened the door, but we've been here before. The difference this time is the squeeze, and there's no doubt about it, that was definitely a squeeze. Paviano did not move left. The Ferrari of Angelo Veloz moved right. He went through because that made Paviano get a little bit sideways, and I don't think that Michael will have appreciated that.
Factor of potential, the patience coming in there and grind it away. Now it's time to see how the Ford can grind its way forward. Eric Kalonga not able to get alongside. Now this is going to get intriguing. With Eric Kalonga looking to have another potential of a podium in the Ford this season.
Yeah, and again, because that Ford isn't that extensively used anymore, there might be a bit of uncertainty as to where its strength lies. It always seems to go well at the power circuits. That suggests that it works well down the straights, but how is it going to handle this middle sector? For now, Pabiano not having to defend quite as much as he was against Angelo Veloz, and so he will be pretty relieved about that, I would say. Been monitoring that lead gap as well, by the way, Justin. It was shrinking down to about 9/10 early on, then suddenly shot out to 2 seconds, and since then, Andre Bonatti has been doing everything he can to close in on Terrafino. Got it down as low as 1.2 a lap ago, but Michael just seems to have an answer for him for now.
Looking up towards the leaders. Terrafino did get reeled in by nearly a second again by Bonatti, but the thing is, it's stagnated around this point yet again, around a 1.5 seconds back. Terrafino has led the entire way, has had a 1 second advantage since turn 3 of this entire race. Going well if you're Michael Terrafino right now.
Yeah, absolutely picture perfect for Michael, but I think we're seeing a little bit of inconsistency for everyone. I think that is just this track temperature, such a low grip surface right now, and I think even Terrafino making a couple of mistakes out there, but keeping Bonatti at arm's reach for the time being. This battle definitely seems to have settled down as well. I think Pabiano has found his space in the line now. He was holding himself up as much as anything, defending from Veloz that way, and I think now that the Ferrari's gone through, that will benefit him. Some side-by-side action in the background meanwhile, and that was Chandler and Glover as they debate 10th place.
Baron Glover, no more so in this series in the past for his oval racing ability. Trying to get things done on the 4X machine. That was done on Regan Chandler, trying to defend him. Now Regan Chandler looking to see if he can hold off the teammates in some of these cases to this car in front, because Mark File is the next behind Chandler.
Yes, a bit of a shame for Mark that he couldn't follow his teammate through there, but Glover made the move and is already starting to escape up the road. The Ferraris looking strong, aren't they, here, actually, at Interlagos. This car is a really good all-rounder, I think, the 488 GT3. It's got a really nice chassis. It handles the more technical sections well, but actually performs pretty well down the straights too. It's a very easy car to drive as well, so I'm not surprised to see these cars starting to excel here tonight, and we've got another one now inside the top 10 as Regan Chandler starts to fall into the clutches of Mark File behind. Having said that, though, actually gaps File through that middle sector and closes back in on Glover.
Keep in mind, an important thing to consider, though, when it comes to speed, in the opening round of the card on the sprint side, it was the Red Bull Ring, and a lot of drivers had talked about the straight line speed with the Ferrari. It was very evident. Keep in mind, the Ferrari's been quick in some of these lines compared to some others. Also, speaking of the others coming to the pit lane, it's Rodrigo Morales' pit stop time to start the window.
Yeah, so earlier than everybody else. It's rare that we see one driver pit on their own in this series. Normally, everyone's got a rough idea of when they want to pit, and it tends to be over the same couple of laps. But I think, pitting early, really, just to try and get himself out of this train, because running in the dirty air like that, you're holding each other up by doing that, but also you're wearing the tyres out more. You do get a little bit of aero push, a little bit of dirty air in these cars, and that will scrub the front tyres. It overheats everything a little bit as well. So not a bad idea to try and get out of that group and maybe find some clean air.
There's also the inverse, though, that can be considered with a track such as this or a race like this so far that I have to mention, because last night did some work with Trevor McClure, the multiple-time special event endurance racing IMSA, multiple different series strategist and spotter Trevor McClure, and he had talked about during that entire sequence where someone tried the contra strategy like that, his advice to them was, you should have went with the main strategy.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Push the fuel.
Yeah, exactly. And fuel save is definitely something we've seen come into play in these races. That's a spin for the number 93 Lamborghini. That's Rob Campbell. So Rob Campbell then dropping down towards the back end of the top 30 now. He's had a spin at Mico de Pato, that is, I think, turn number 10. Quite how he's ended up there, I'm not so sure. Okay, so he'd already had a spin. Oh no, comes back across into traffic. I think that's what they call an unsafe rejoin, Justin.
I don't even know if you would call that more so a rejoin or as a spin on the attempt to even get to that point. Again, the 93, that's Rob Campbell, loops it around, one of the lunatic machines. And then you have the 63 Rexoid just drive it along. And then, coming in stage left, A car lights it up. Bye-bye.
Oh dear, and now this is big for the championship, remember. Errol Urexoy third in the points and has already had a non-finish back at Daytona, so he's used up his drop score, and this might now end up being another non-finish, so could that be Errol Urexoy's shot at the championship pretty much done and dusted, I wonder. He was already 32 points off Michael Terrafino. Terrafino, of course, currently leading this race, albeit by less than a second now, but still, he's likely to score more points than Urexoy, who might now notch up his second non-finish of the season.
Speaking of some of the 4X machines we were talking about earlier, Aiden Irvin applying some pressure. Still looking to see if there's a way around. That's Baron Glover. In fact, Mark File has already found a way back around him. Keep in mind, that's how quick File has been able to charge ahead, even though its own teammate now.
Yeah, that's interesting then. So some drivers perhaps looking after those tyres better than others and able to find a bit of pace as we move into the second half of the race. Really only one of our sort of front-running drivers to have made a pit stop then, as we saw. So not seeing a lot of activity down pit road just now. Most people choosing to stay with the pack, perhaps save a bit of fuel, just wait and see how the race plays out. But this is a really good scrap going on just sort of at the back of the top 10. And I wonder whether now Mark File might have a chance of closing in slightly on Andrew Venaro, because he's only a couple of seconds up the road, and I think that Mark is perhaps a bit quicker right now.
A bit quicker. Last time by, he was nearly a full second quicker. For comparison with Glover shuffling around in the positions 138.1. Speaking of shuffling, the Ford gets it by Buck Hamilton? Buck Hamilton for SG Esports doing a solid run, and now the Ford is dropping back even further with Sayana around the outside.
Yeah, looks as though Kalaga is struggling. We picked him up when he was already offline. That's never a good place to be, but I wonder if that Ford is just chewing its rubber up a little bit quicker than some of the more modern cars out there on track, or maybe just a mistake for Eric. Either way, he's down to 7th place and clearly starting to lose a little bit of pace. The next driver will be Andrew Venaro to put some pressure on him in the Ferrari behind. But let's see whether Kalaga chooses to stay out or have another attack. We've had a change for third and another spin, Justin.
It's 43. Matt Sheriff for one of the Vulture Motorsports entries. Gather it back up. Some of their teammates did pit recently. Here comes the battle for third again. Aviano fighting his way back around the Ferrari for third.
Yeah, really interesting. We were commenting only 10 minutes ago how much Michael was struggling, and now suddenly he's a lot quicker than Angelo Veloz. So on the previous lap, he was a full second quicker than the Ferrari and was able to make a pretty easy move through the center S's. So Michael Pabayano really starting to come on strong. The trouble is he's 10.5 seconds adrift of the race leaders. I don't think he's going to get there in 15 minutes time, even with a pit stop to take into account. Third might be as good as it gets here for Michael.
Could be very important, the point differential between him and Terrafino after the end of the night. We'll have to keep an eye on how things cycle through for next round, to say the very least. More drivers coming in this time by the way, Mackenzie and DeWeese. The reason the surprise a bit with Buck Hamilton is SG Esports in that 5th place car, not necessarily known for their organization of the road prowess, is having his best run of the season too. So keeping an eye still on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, rather 3rd and 4th. Still, Fabiano, just keeping the rhythm together. And what is that focus happen to be like now, knowing how much is at stake with the championship and needing to basically make sure when the drops come in majorly into play, he's right there to take advantage with his 0 drop compared to the 20.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, isn't it? He'll be painfully aware of the fact that he's 16 points back right now, and Michael Terrafino's leading the race. Even if Terrafino ends up losing to Bonatti by the end, it's likely that he'll still outscore Pabayano. So really, Michael has to prioritise 3rd place. Sometimes you've got to just damage limitation. That has to be what your goal is, and if he realises that he's not going to beat Terrafino in this race, he needs to make absolutely sure that he gets as many points as he possibly can. Andrew Venaro in the pit lane in his Ferrari as well, but still, Justin, not that many choosing to make a pit stop.
And already 1 second quicker than Morales' early stop, keep in mind. Some of the drivers stopping for as long as 14 seconds. Drivers who took tires, 22 seconds. So that's also the major thing to consider. You extend the run, you likely are able to take a little less fuel on, since you don't need to go full distance. You only need to go 9, 8, or 7.
Yeah, that's true. And, of course, the longer you're out on track, the longer you may be able to fuel save. Oh, this is for the lead, Justin. We've almost had a lead change.
What happened to Terrafino's lead? Remember, he was up by a second or so. Now he's going to have to deal with Benetti going around. I think it may have involved traffic. And now the lead has completely dwindled for the beef car.
Well, he was starting to lose a bit of pace to Benatti anyway, and he certainly lost some time now. They both stay out on track, so not choosing to react to that by pitting yet, with 12.5 minutes still to go. But I think that Andre will have a real chance now at taking the win. But at this point, he's already caught him, hasn't he, really? And in fact, even at Ferradura, he'd caught him. That was the moment. There was a spinning Audi, I think, going down into Descida del Lago. Michael Terrafino had to go a long way off the track. Here is his onboard view going into the corner. There's nothing evidently wrong, but then he turns around, there's a rejoining Audi. Oh, and he just had a wobble over the curb. Actually didn't go off in avoidance, just hit the curb wrong and went so far off the track that he almost needed to buy a ticket to get back in, and that was what lost him a second and a half.
Now it's Sheriff again going off the circuit, by the way, on the left side of the track. You have to wonder if the visibility may have come up there too, so we'll have to see how this plays out. By the way, pit stop already complete for Papalano. Currently an 8.6, one of the quickest in the race, fuel stop-wise, in 34 seconds back of the leader.
And I think that's a sensible call, really, because he was losing time battling with Angelo Veloso again. I know that he'd got back through, but he wasn't shaking off the Ferrari driver. And I think that it was probably a good idea to try and get out of that battle, as entertaining as it was. It was definitely holding him up. 11.25 minutes to go. Are we going to see the leaders pitting just yet? I doubt it. Terrafino looks to be getting back into a rhythm, really, doesn't he? Benatti can't quite stick with him, so I'd imagine that Terrafino's in no hurry right now to bail for the pit lane and give up this clean air.
Well, you say that. I think it's pit stop time.
Shows what I know, that, doesn't it? There's a reason I'm a commentator, not a racing driver.
So, 7 laps to go is the mark. 15 laps appears to be the limit for most here, except for Velos, who is extending this run. So there goes Terrafino to the box. And he's looking to try and see what they can have. A little stumble, and he's on the checks.
So, taking tyres. Okay, so he had a little stumble, like you said, coming in, missed his pit box, but he is taking new tyres. Now, that might be a genius call because it didn't lose him that much time. He's obviously calculated, because remember that tyres and fuel can happen at the same time now on these GT3 cars, so he's obviously calculated that the amount of fuel he was taking on was going to take almost as long as it would take to change tyres. So he's decided to do the two at the same time, give up a little bit of track position, but that might give him a big speed advantage given these insanely high track temperatures, the high tyre wear that will lead to. I think that could really be a good call. He'll have to pass the Benatti BMW once more, but I think he might have the grip to do it.
We'll have to see if that's going to end up being true or not. The counterpoint may be the potential the tire boxes. Will have to find out post-race, with Terrafino now 3 seconds, about 2.5 in fact now, behind Benetti, with Baron Glover, who's yet to pit in front of him. Now he's boxed in behind the 00.
Yeah, Baron not making it easy, and why should he? This is technically for position. I know that he's not really in Michael Terrafino's race because he hasn't stopped, but he doesn't have to get out of the way. There's no blue flags. And he's going to sit there and frustrate the championship leader, who goes off track almost coming out of Jinsao there to try and get the move made. And he will now drag along the outside. Angelo Veloso, by the way, has just pitted from the race lead. So it'll be interesting to see where the Ferrari comes out in relation to Michael Paviano, remember, with whom he was battling. And there is the Ferrari just creeping into its pit box now.
So the understanding may be from those who picked up, there was a bit of a tire slide there, and there is, from my understanding, a potential where they can check the box when you're reversing back. There's a lot that can factor in when it comes to the 94's case, but now it's going to be the true test of the season. Can Terrafino recover from that type of situation where you take the 3-second stop, mistake or not? Can he close it? He's already got him within 10 car lengths again.
Yeah, it's not been an ideal start to the stint, and of course, he will have had to get those tyres back up to temperature, back up to pressure again. The first couple of laps on new tyres, you're nowhere near as quick as you will be once you've got some heat into them. So I expected him to struggle for the first lap or so, not helped by coming across the Mark File Ferrari. But now he's starting to get into the groove. You can see that gap, it's creeping down almost under a second now. In fact, it probably will be by the time they get to the end of this sequence of corners. So there's no doubt about it, he will have a grip advantage, but Bennati looking for that first win of the season. He's not going to give up without a fight, and Terrafino has got the championship to think about too.
Down to 1.4 seconds, under 5 estimated laps to go when they come across the stripe this time by. Terrafino's been very quick, has had clean air all race long. Now it's the matter of can he get it done by trying to reel the race leader in. Eric Kalonga is the only driver yet to pit currently, hence why he's at the top of the pylon. Should say he's now in the pit lane. So now, it's now Benetti and Terrafino to decide the race winner. Vello's looking to determine if he can hold on to the third step of the podium with under 5 estimated laps to go.
Yeah, so interestingly, he came out ahead of Pabayano. So remember, Pabayano got past him a couple of times in this race and will have to do it again now to try and get back onto the podium. There's Eric Kulaga. Seems to be a bit of a long stop. He's going to drop a couple of places, I think. Perhaps just stayed out a little bit too long there. He'll perhaps hold on to a top 10. No, it's going to be 10th or 11th maybe by the time he rejoins. That's Mark File going through in 10th, so it will be 11th place then for Eric Kulaga. That's a bit of a shame, but we'll see whether or not he can pick some more places up. Remember, qualified really well, so we know he has got the speed in the car.
Oh, and a crash down the straightaway. One car comes out of the pits and slams the wall. Glover drives on by to the destroyed car. Believe that it was around Gomillion and company now, so that is Felix Velez for SG Esports straight into the wall.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how he managed that. Let's see. Has a bit of a wobble coming out of Curva de Sol. He's in the middle of the road, veers over to the left, drives onto the grass. I don't think he was watching where he was going. I think he was watching the mirror because there were faster cars coming through and he was trying to second guess where they were going and just ran out of road, unfortunately. So not his finest moment there, but I guess an easy mistake to make when you're distracted trying to stay out of people's way.
There's a lap down. That's an important consideration. Also important, Terrafino within 4/10 now for the lead. Could get very intriguing with the lap count. The estimation is starting to flip-flop between 4 and 5 again, with about 5.5 minutes to go. Jason Lotridge moves to the left side. Terrafino trying to line up the draft, trying to break the split second. Benetti up to the braking zone. Interlagos, it's down to 2 car lengths. It was 10 car lengths this section 2 laps ago.
Yeah, there's no doubt Terrafino's quicker, but he's got to pick his moment. Second place is still worth 32 championship points. It's only 3 more for a race win, and he's guaranteed to outscore Michael Pabayano either way. He's looking to the outside at Ferradura. Can't go right round the outside though, and he will settle back in line. The other consideration he has to make here is that although there are only 5 minutes to go, we've seen how much time you can lose by going side by side around certain parts of this track. Veloz at the moment is gaining on them. He's under 8 seconds behind. If they really start getting into each other, then it could open the door for Veloz and Pabayano to start closing that gap. So I'd like to see Terrafino have a go at this, but he has to weigh up the options.
Not going to be easy to get this job done now. A bit of a slide, though, for Benetti. He slid a couple times coming through Jinsao. Now Terrafino a little bit quicker with the draft and better on the launch. Now moves to the right side already. Some traffic up the road to deal with soon. There's the block now to the left side. Up to the right side, Terrafino. Side by side, heading up the front straightaway to the braking boards. Deeper on the brakes goes Benetti. Benetti sticks to the inside, holds on to the preferred line for Senna S. Terrafino forced to regroup as he gets the better launch.
Yeah, looking for the better run now through Curva de Sol down towards Desida de Lago. Is the inside going to be left open? It might be. Yes, Bennati didn't get over to the left to defend in time, and that surely now is Terrafino's chance. He's got a slight overlap. He's got the inside line into Desida de Lago, and he will go through. So in the end, Andre Benetti, perhaps a little bit of inexperience, not used to racing at the front against the likes of Michael Terrafino, and he just didn't quite shut that door quickly enough.
Terrafino now looking to try and see if he can run away. Andre Benetti seeing if there's any chance of pressurizing a mistake. There is now 2 cars to deal with the traffic. Matt Dinsmore, Ryan Chandler up the road. Within the next couple laps here with about 3 minutes to work with, these two have an 8-second cushion over the rest of the field.
Yeah, and Pabiano not really making any inroads into Veloz either. So again, Pabiano seems to struggle early in a stint, doesn't he? And then come on strong a little bit later. We'll see though, still gonna have a couple of laps to go at the end of this one. And he might still have half a chance at closing in on Veloz, the gap just under 1 second.
Couple laps to go. Terrafino looking to say so long to Benetti's bumper and thank him for all the fish. Now looking to see if he can pick up the W. Just 2 more clean laps to get the job done. Down to the final stretches, looking to get half the victories under his belt. Taking a look behind him, battle for 8th. Cleon, Regan Chandler, Mark File, all close within about a second.
Yeah, Eric Kulaga still stuck in 11th as well, just ahead of Pedersen, so not really a factor in this group, but he'd like to see them start fighting a bit harder. Then he might be able to close in, and he might be about to get his wish, because Sully Syed is going to have to defend a little into the Senna S there to keep the BMW of Regan Chandler at bay. And Mark File looking to try and join in the fun as well. Bit of damage, I think, on the back of Mark File's Ferrari. And so he's had a little bit of a nudge somewhere along the line. But he's still running quickly and might yet be able to break a little bit further inside that top 10.
Looking at one of the Chandlers, this is Regan. All the way to the bumper, nearly in the braking zone, heading to the final 92nd or so seconds to work with. Oh, and a move to the left side outside of him. Mark Files trying to make the move. Chandler focused more on what's in front. Able to keep it single file. Now hard on the brakes, nearly to the back end of the Audi again.
Regan is a great driver to ride on board with, isn't he? Look at the, you can read in his face everything that's happened. The little grimace when he ran wide there almost opened the door for Mark File again. This is a real battle, and it almost looks like he's physically getting his elbows out, trying to make himself as wide as possible. But I don't think it's going to work, because Mark is up the inside now as they drop down through turn 11. That will be the inside line into Jinsao, and I think the Ferrari should go through. Oh, well, Regan sends it in on the outside line, runs out of grip, runs out of rope, and Kulaga up the middle of both of them.
Smart says it all. Chandler now back to his starting position to 12th in the final 40 seconds of the race. So, expecting this to potentially be the final lap around, we'll see the confirmation when they make it to the start and finish line. Several more looking to scramble. Chandler looking for spots back. Some of the Ferraris looking to go and scrap. Eric Kulaga in the Ford on the right side of the track. Baron Glover on the left side of Regan Chandler. Going back of the line goes Dale Pedersen. All of them having a fierce fight for points for the top 10.
Yeah, fantastic racing here. They all know that they're running out of time. This is the final lap. The white flag has been waved, and they don't have many more opportunities to try and make ground up. You can see there Regan Chandler under pressure now from Baron Glover as well, who tries the outside line into Desida Delago. That's brave, but it might work. No, there's contact. They're both off the road and heavily into the barriers for the Ferrari. And, well, Regan Chandler, that grimace on his face is going nowhere for the time being.
Regan Chandler monsters going around as we look up towards the front. The spin gathered back up. The checker flag waits at the end of the racetrack for everybody else. Michael Terrafino took tires during the pit stops, lost 3 seconds. His decision gets him a victory by more than 3 seconds. Michael Terrafino, for the 5th time this season, is a winner in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series powered by VCO. He does it in Brazil.
Brilliant performance there from Michael Terrafino. Really, nothing could stop him there, even the little fumble in the pit lane. And once again, keeps that 100% win from pole record going with now his 5th victory of the season. And a big step closer, you'd have to say, to claiming the championship too.
Take a look at one of the air battles that just happened and fared out. Remember, this is involving the Chandler incident. And some of the damage model really being showcased here with some of the damage to the Ferrari. Look at this.
Yeah, Regan up the inside, so a bit of a squeeze there on the way into the corner. Now, I suspect, we're not going to see it from that angle, but I suspect Yeah, the Ferrari sort of came across on him. It looked as though Regan had left space, and unfortunately, not enough space as it turned out. And we saw the Ferrari come straight back across into him. This is the onboard then, and Baron Glover sends it around the outside. Now, watch this though, as they come off the corner. He moves left off the curb, may have got loose on the curb actually. I don't think that was as deliberate as it looked. I suspect he lost traction on the right rear corner, and unfortunately Regan Chandler was an innocent victim.
Some of the drivers looking to celebrate. In fact, a couple drivers still looking to finish the race. Vanco and Walker amongst the final finishers on the lean lap. Well, the last finisher overall left running in this race at the time of the checker flag, who was not involved in some of the incidents prior to the final lap. So a lot of drivers taking part tonight, more than 40, but in the end, only one could come away with the victory, right? Michael Terrafino does it again for Team B, and does it by almost 4 seconds after taking tires on the stop. Fellows picks up third with Fabiano Hamilton, the first top five for Selden Hamilton this year. Errol Morales, Sayad File, and Eric Kalarga, the top 10. Right behind them in the running order this evening, Dale Pedersen able to hold on in the midst of the fierce fight towards the end. Maurice Gomillion, Greg Doucette, Aiden Irvin, and Michael Kalarga, the top 15. Waldo Walden finished 16th with Hoskins, Regan Chandler, Martinez, and Glover, the top 20. Only first tonight went to Colin McKenzie. Lucio Vargas started second last, finished instead in 22nd. Alex Wright very quiet tonight in 23rd, with Nicholas Caranjas in 24th, Johnson, Vanco, Walker, and Sheriff the last of the lead lap. Lotridge and DeWeese were both lapped in the final stage of the race. Amongst those who had troubles from the get-go was Trevor Houston, who had 2 off tracks in the first lap and had an additional one in the mid-race. That seen him finish 31st in front of Ryan Luna. Hansen was involved in an incident and finished 2 laps down in front of Dino Vell with the last car running at the checker. Felix Feliz, after his incident, finished 35th, with Ryan Chandler in 36th with mandatory damage repair. Araxoy and Campbell, 37-38, with Carly, DeRoche, Dinsmore, and Macaroni. Your 42 entrants here today. Benetti picked up the fastest lap point, keep in mind, tonight, by 1/1000th of a second over Terrafino. That's a look top to bottom at our unofficial race results here tonight. A lot to consider after this one, and a lot of questions potentially for the one, the only Space Cat. Michael Terrafino, for the 5th time this season, is a winner here in this series. And the question I think a lot of people asking is, did you want to take tires in that stop on purpose? Yes or no? And he thought you did.
Yes, that was on purpose. I took rear tires, knowing how hot the track was, and by the end of the stint, it was sliding around, so I figured I only lose about a second or so by waiting for the tires, and I figured it was worth it.
You actually lost 3, but reeled it in quickly. How would you describe the handling of that battle between you and Benetti for the race win?
It was. I knew I had him when I took tires when he jumped me in the pits. I figured that would be like the telltale. When I knew I had the rear tires, I just had to wait for the right moment to use the tires to my advantage.
So now, looking in a very good spot with the championship, picking up a few more points over your championship rival. Thoughts heading up into the closing stages now of the campaign, with next time up after Valentine's Day, mind you, being Road America.
Road America I'm excited for. That's probably one of the tracks I know best. That's definitely in like the top 3 of tracks I know best. Okayama, I've never driven a GT3 car around there, so that'll be interesting. But I know the track, so should be good.
See if indeed that's the case next time out again. Next week off for Valentine's Day. Congratulations, though, on your 5th win of the season.
All right, thanks, guys.
Michael Terrafino saying thanks for all the fishing, says thank you to the victory. Able to hold on for the race win on the fresh tires. Meanwhile, 3rd step of the podium tonight went the way of Angelo Bellows, who finished in the 3rd spot over Babilano. He's now with Andy.
Yeah, Angelo, thank you for joining us in the broadcast booth. Really great battle there that you had with Michael throughout that race, really. We enjoyed watching it. What was it in the end, do you think, that decided that in your favour?
The pit stop makes difference. Only the pit. He has a great pace and very similar to me, but the pit was really good for me.
How much of a challenge were the tyres out there? It was such a hot track temperature. We expected you all to be struggling. Was it hard work out there to keep the tyres underneath you?
Sincerely, I hate Interlagos because this temperature is very bad, very difficult to just stay in the track. Be fast is worst.
Yeah,
To survive.
absolutely. We saw lots of drivers struggling for grip, struggling for traction,
Really
but
struggling.
the Ferrari, would you say the Ferrari perhaps is a little easier to drive in those conditions than, for
I
example,
don't
the
think so.
Lamborghini?
I don't think so. Not Interlagos. It's very understeer. So and the corners, the alone, it's very hard to do this. I
What
adjust the
you
brake bias so in the front to make some.
Well, you made it look very easy, and it's scored you some good points. So it should have moved you into third place in the championship now, we think. So, how confident are you can hang on to that now for the rest of the season?
I wrote, so I can hear that.
Oh, have you still got us, Angelo?
Hello.
We may have lost Angelo Veloz, but happy and I think relieved that that race is over, Justin.
Well, on that note, it's been exciting to say the very least so far throughout this campaign, but now it's time in turn for a lot of these respective drivers to get ready for the sprint side of the card tonight. Here, once again from Brazil, to see how the open setup side of the field looks to handle this racetrack here tonight. Welcome once again here to RaceSpot's Action. Let's take a look immediately at your standings for the Sprint Series. Let's start things off with the Drivers' Championship, where so far, so good for Elliott White. 6 points up for Prashant Dickinson. You also have Raymond Yip and Carl Modoff in the championship hunt, as well as Martin Crisp. So far, very competitive amongst your top 5.
Certainly is, yeah. Just the 8 points, excuse me, between those top 2 in the championship, and they've both had a non-finish as well. In fact, all of our top 3 drivers in the championship have had a non-score, which means that we don't have to worry about drop scores with them. It's just a straight-up fight now, and what's that? 17 points between the top 3. Carl Modoff and Martin Crisp tied for 4th place in the championship. They're both looking to try and have a good points night here tonight. Daniel Krasovsky, pole sitter for the very first round of the championship back at Red Bull Ring. He's 6th ahead of Ryan Puchtel, Conor Wagner, Ethan Osowski, and Noah Anderson, just tripping into triple figures there on his points and making it into the top 10.
Been an intriguing campaign for some of those, absolutely, but keep in mind with this side of the car, there's also AM drivers that compete amongst these respective drivers, and with the point structure this season, it's taken some interesting turns. Blake Zeedy has been cooking up some Zeedies to be able to keep himself in the hunt over a hard-charging Turner Schroll. The big thing with Schroll, he had 2 no-point races in the first 3 rounds. Since then, he's done really well. In fact, picked up 22 points in round 5. And is now evened up at the points with David Mendanka, also within 1 point, despite a DNF and 2 0-point races. You also have Quinn Nin, along with Gary Brown, within the top 5 so far, and several drivers still looking to see if they can gain more than the 18 or 17 around 8th on back, where a lot of drivers are fighting for a top 10 with several DNSs. It's been extremely tight amongst those AM standings in turn, and keep in mind, you can tell with some of the drivers amongst, especially the pro side of the card, teams like Delta Sport, SimCity Racing, very quick this season, Andy. Should be an exciting night to see once again how they fare out this time in Brazil.
Yeah, I think so. That's a pretty close teams championship for this stage of the season, actually. Normally, by this point, one team seems to have been riding their luck the best and has pulled a bit of a lead, but just 25 points between Delta Sport and SimCity Racing, and then an even closer fight, actually, for third. Precision Racing Esports and Blue Chip Racing, just 5 points between those two, and then it's a case of everyone else fighting for the scraps, really. Precision Racing Esports 112 are 5th ahead of Upfront Motorsport, Race Factory Blue, Ford Racing in 8th ahead of Speedworks Racing Team Esport Pro, and the Long Island Racing Team on 88 points, completing the top 10.
A lot of different entries in terms of teams throughout the campaign, but now in turn, a lot of these teams looking to see what they can turn for their laps for this side of the card. And keep in mind the weather conditions here tonight for drivers starting off the 10 minutes and 4 laps of qualifying, very similar to those who kept an eye on the other side of the card. 122 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, 79 the air temp, but very windy. So qualifying for some of the drivers underway with the warm-ups, Andy. Your expectations for the sprint side of the card here tonight, with a lot of high expectations amongst 36 entries.
Absolutely. Well, what I'm hoping for is a really good battle between Elliott White and Sean Dickinson, because they've only actually finished first and second in a race once, and that was the 4th round at Silverstone. Every other race, it's been a case of one of them doing well and the other one finishing a couple of places further back. It's kept the points very close, but it would be quite nice to see them really go toe-to-toe for a race win. And then you look at the likes of Raymond Yip, Carl Modoff, Martin Crisp. They all know, as we have a big spin for Alex Caruso down at Interlagos, not the ideal way to start his qualifying session. But yeah, those a bit further back know that they're running out of opportunities really to try and outscore those top 2. But knowing that the top 3 drivers all have a non-score, that really puts the pressure on them. They may have lots of points in the bag, but they can't afford another bad race.
Take a look at Nick McLaughlin, who has been very successful on Tuesday nights here in this series in the past. This year, a little bit different, let's put it that way, when it comes to some of his fellow teammates this season. Tonight, looking to see if he can try and move up from 13th in the standings, putting a 0-point round last time.
Yeah, Nick had a bit of a rough time of it at Long Beach then, but the Precision Racing Esports Ferrari looking to try and bounce back, as you said, here at Sao Paulo. Drops down out of the centre S's, a bit scrappy over the curbs there, perhaps hasn't quite got the tyres up to full temperature yet, which seems a strange thing to say given how hot this track temperature is. We've been talking about it a lot already over the course of the last nearly an hour, but it still takes a while to get the temperatures up in the tyres, and more to the point, the pressures. It's all about tyre pressure really. Until you get those pressures into the right window, you won't have the grip you need, and that around a circuit of this length could take a couple of laps.
Look at the camera viewpoint. Always provides this camera viewpoint throughout these races. Time with the red shirt. See if he can focus on avoiding the red mist and making sure to focus on the road in hand for quali. Just see some of the motions with the open wheel style wheel formation he's got on his rig tonight once again.
Yeah, which of course is really in line with the real car. You can see the simulated version of the wheel very, very similar, and that wasn't the case a number of years ago with GT race cars. It takes that wide entry into Junsao. That is actually within iRacing track limits, which are notoriously vague in some parts of some circuits. You can go very, very wide indeed on turn-in, so he maximises that to get the speed up the hill, and nice smooth steering inputs. The Ferrari will come across the line and be amongst the first to set a lap time. Sean Dickinson, twice a pole sitter so far this season, was quickest, but that's no longer the case. McLaughlin comes through with a 33.6. That wasn't actually that quick, excuse me, but it is the number 2 car of Ovando, fastest so far.
Quack, quack, time to go off the racetrack. As Boris Egno Ovando is the quickest of the drivers so far. Taking a look at one of the oval specialists in the field once again, Matthew Thunhorst. He's already picked up an incident point in the opening lap of his qualifying run. Matthew Thunhorst races a ton on the short track side, picked up some Road to Pro second split wins last year. Did not start in the last race, in fact 2 of the last 3, but he's done very solid for somebody who's no more so as a short track racer.
Yeah, this is a completely different discipline, obviously. Very different car, very different style of racing, but that does teach you car control normally, and that might come in handy tonight, given the slick track that they're all dealing with. Hasn't set a time yet, but let's see what he is able to do. Matthew Thunhurst accelerating up the hill out of Junsao towards the line. We've got our first AM times coming in as well, and Blake Ziti at the moment 13th fastest overall, the quickest of the AMs for now, but still 5 minutes to go, and that could well change before the end.
Track temperature is picking up, by the way. It's already up 2 degrees from those times mentioned at the start of the session. Thunhorse does have a validated time in the 20s. Elliott White, meanwhile, very competitive, also a part of the eNASCAR College Series last semester. Already holding on to second after pulling off. Carl Modoff also looking to reset. Again, with the track temperatures, tire management critical, and some drivers take the strategy of run a lap or two, reset, run a lap or two.
Yeah, I really think that's what you have to do when the track is this hot. As I said, it takes you a couple of laps to get the tyres into the window, but once they're there, they don't stay there for very long. So you don't have that many opportunities really to set a quick lap. Martin Crisp coming through to start what will be his first proper push lap here, essentially. That was quite a slow initial effort, but Martin 5th fastest right now. Kozowski up there in 3rd. Look how tight it is though. The top 3 covered by half a tenth, and the first second taking you well outside the top, 22nd. The top 22 cars covered by less than a second. This is a lot closer than the fixed session, which is kind of the opposite of what you'd expect. You'd think on a fixed setup you'd see closer lap times, but that's a sign of the professionalism, the high standard of driving in this sprint series is looking as close as ever.
And I said at the start of the season with SimCity Racing, they've really impressed as Chris just about picks up an off track there. The main thing with them has been sometimes just keeping out of trouble in some cases. More so in the case of Chris been early on the campaign. They've turned that cleanness around, and that's why drivers like Dickinson are in the championship fight after the DNF in round 2 for him. As Chris indeed picks up the off track and does not like it.
Well, that's probably his session done. He might just have time to get back out on track, I guess, but only for one real flying lap. Darren Rutherford, meanwhile, 2nd of the AM drivers right now, but down in 19th with Blake Ziti in 14th. So needs to try and find a bit more time to try and beat Blake, who's actually just been demoted down to 15th place now. Rutherford comes through, and it's not as quick. A second off his previous best lap time, and he is in danger, perhaps, of slipping out of the top 20 before the session's over.
Ziti right now the only driver in the top 15 from the M class, mind you, and it's about a 4 or 5 position cushion. New driver top of the pylon, Diego Morales, a 10th quicker. It just so happens he's with We Race Esports, who had some strong showings in the fixed side of the card.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere as well, by over a tenth faster than Ovando. So Diego Morales saving the best till last, and that's always a sign of a strong driver, isn't it, to be able to dig that lap out right towards the end of the session. Espinosa there going 6th as well, so quite a few improvements coming here as we go into the final couple of minutes.
Krasowski currently in the midst of the top 5, looking to set up a final lap. Once one of the Yachty's in the field, we've seen Krasowski do well at times. He lost a lot of points, however, with a 4-point round last showing. And as a result, with him having a DNS in round 5, well, back in the championship hunt compared to drivers like White, who scored just 10 points even in the previous round. We'll see how Krasowski finishes up the run. Needs 2 tenths to be able to get up to Morales, under 2 minutes on the clock. Dickinson amongst those who have already closed up their runs. This time by Krasowski, 132.6, good enough for 3rd. Ovando gets shuffled. Ovando already responding by trying to get back into the pit lane and his run.
Yeah, Krasowski's been pretty consistent so far this season as far as qualifying performance. He's had more pole positions than anyone else actually in the sprint series with 3, but has only converted that into a race win once. So Krasowski this time not quite managing pole position, but the second row of the grid still a good place to try and attack and get that second race win of the season.
Karmodov, meanwhile, 2 straight races with points in single digits scored. Likely his 7th round may potentially be the drop for him. And Karl Modov, a longtime veteran in the series, really was quick in the open wheel side a few years ago for his respective squad. Now looking to see if he can pick up the 2 tenths that Krasowski couldn't.
Yeah, Carl pushing hard down through turns 8 and 9 up towards Pico de Pato. This is a tricky braking zone, sort of turning to the right, and these cars don't really like braking and turning at the same time, but he gets into the corner well. And now flat out, I would have thought, through Megulo, turn 11, dropping downhill and then late on the brakes, as late as you dare, into Jinsao, tried to hit the apex. Nicely done. This looks like a really tidy lap, actually, from Karl Modov, who's aiming to beat his previous best of a 132.786. We've got a change there. Again, another driver getting within a tenth now. That's Crisp up into third fastest. Top three covered by 3/4 of a second. Can Karl Modov put himself in that conversation as well?
At the stripe, the answer, no! He runs out of time at the stripe. Modov mistimes it by 1 second, and he does not get the fourth time to count. So as a result, he'll have to start at the back end of the top 10, with his time sticking to 7th. So that closes out qualifying with 36 entrants, taking part in Brazil 35, electing to qualify. Let's take a look and turn how they'll start tonight. Diego Morales looking to carry momentum for iRacing Esports from the fixed side of the event tonight. Elliott White starts in second, backed by nearly 4 100s. Crisp and Krzelski, 3rd and 4th. Pendo and Dickinson, the top 6. Modov nearly had a shot to battle for the pole instead, but starts 7th. Espinosa in 8th position. Dominic Olivier starts in 9th position. Brian Punchtel in the 10th spot. Good run for the orange car. Then it's Raymond Yip alongside Ethan Ozalski in 12th. Caleb Lehman starts in 13th. Zenka in the Cyberpunk car in 14th. Then it's Dunn and Blake Seedy, the highest running AMCO driver, in 16th position. Ted Lowendick says hello to his best friend Nick McLaughlin tonight from 17th and 18th, with Spears and Carmody the top 20. Larson, Rutherford, and Brown the top 23, with Conaway in 24. Dunhorse starts deep in the field in 25th tonight, alongside Noah Anderson. Alex Caruso, very surprising with some of the speed seen this year. He's back in 27th. When Nid starts in 28th. Brett Thurman back in 29th with Chase Brown. Also back in the field tonight, Turner Schroll 1.3 seconds off the pole with Jeremy Gonsalves. Sean McGinnis starts 33rd. Last driver set time, Christopher Rhines and David Morse. One other driver entering the field tonight, one of the Speedworks entries, that's Matt Hilton. Rounds out the 36 on the grid this evening. So we've seen what happened in race 1 of the evening. Your keys to victory for this side of the card. 40 minutes up on the clock for these drivers.
Well, one thing I'm really interested to see here is how many of these drivers watched that earlier race, the fixed setup race, because Michael Terrafino's strategy, which we heard was deliberate, he planned that rear tyre change at the pit stop, and it worked perfectly. It was worth giving up the track position to make sure you had the grip underneath you. I wonder whether any of these drivers might choose to do the same thing. Very similar track temperatures at the moment. That 7 mile an hour, 6-7 mile an hour wind changing slightly, but the 125 degrees Fahrenheit, that is the number we need to watch for. The track temperature is sky high, and that will burn up those rear tyres. So I'm interested to see if anyone's willing to roll the dice again here to try and give themselves a grip advantage in the second part of the race.
One driver electing to start for the pit lane tonight, Alex Caruso, missed the start. He'll have to start from his box deep at the back of the pit lane. But outside of that, we're just about all set to go for the PRL GT3 Sprint Series powered by VCO. Very hot track in Brazil. It's the BMW of Morales on the left side. It's the Audi of Elliott White on the right side. Glad to have you with us once again here on RaceSpot and VCO for tonight's action. Field in the hands of Barney the Flagman to get us started for 40 minutes of action from Interlagos. Green flag whips the stand, off and away goes Morales. We're underway from Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. Already fanning out 3-4 wide down into Senna S. Hard braking behind the top 2. Already 3 wide in the battle for 5th and 6th on back. Clean start for most. In the end, it's Morales who leads coming up to the back first straightaway.
Yes, and again, a clean run through the first couple of corners, but it was down here towards Decido del Lago that it all kicked off in the fixed race. Let's see how these drivers handle it. Not quite as much action there in the midfield. Bit of 2 and 3 wide. There's going to be a squeeze into Decido del Lago. 1 or 2 cars running out wide, but actually that could have been a lot worse. Nice and clean stuff, and they will all keep pointing in vaguely the right direction as they make their way towards Ferradura for the first time.
Gary Brown also elected to pull out from the starting grid and start from the pit lane at the last moment before starting the roll. He starts in 36 tonight. Still keep an eye on the mid-pack. Lando amongst those trying to defend. Behind them, yep, with Olszewski looking to make the pass. Now right on behind goes Fonseca to try and make the pass as well.
A little bit of tyre smoke in the background. We might see some here as well with lunges like that. That almost ended in tears, but just about managing to avoid running too wide over the exit curb. So down towards Jinsao they head for the first time. The leaders, though, absolutely nose to tail. There is no one escaping at the front of this field, and this is what we expected given how closely matched they were in qualifying. Morales, White, Krasowski and Dickinson all staying right latched together as they come towards the end of the first lap.
Even having to come out of the sand trap. Contact with Dominic Olivier has damaged his car, and now he's launching into the wall. There goes the Speedworks Racing entry into the fence. In the first major collision with the wall tonight.
Let's see how this happened. Oh, well, sort of turns into the Mercedes and then gets levered off the road and into a barrier. Yeah, that's what did the real damage on the right front corner. Just really neither driver wanting to leave the other any space there, and first lap of the race, sometimes you just need to be a little bit cautious to make sure you survive and get into your rhythm. So unfortunate, but that's him out of the race.
Our young Elliott White starting to hunt down Morales within a car length or so. Also, Krasowski right on his tail too. You can already tell the difference of the braking marks. White looking a little bit deeper on these lunges.
Yeah, of course, different cars. The front-engine BMW, the mid-engines Audis and Lamborghinis, and they will attack the corners slightly differently, so that sort of explains some of the difference in lines, but it does look as though the advantage may lie with the Audis right now. White and Krasowski perhaps a little bit faster than Morales for the time being, but really the best place to pass is at the end of this long front straight. We know how strong the BMW is in a straight line, but White didn't get a great exit from Jinsao there, and I think that might leave him under pressure as they begin lap 3.
Morales, though, in that same section, he looped it around. Here comes Elliott White with the drafting one. Alongside of the right side, this didn't really work out well in Senna S during the fixed race. No, not able to get done fully. Instead, he uses the hillside as a ramp, having to bleep the brake a little bit.
Yeah, smart driving. I saw from Michael Pabiano in the fixed race how difficult it can be to pass somebody around here if the driver ahead of you is defending well, as Morales is. And in fairness, White isn't exactly crawling all over him. He's sitting right behind the BMW, but not weaving around, looking to the inside into every braking zone. So perhaps a bit of fuel saving going on here, given, again, how close these drivers are in pace. If you can save yourself a second or two in the pit lane by saving some fuel now, needing to put less fuel in at the pit stop, that might be the difference between finishing first, second or third. So we might see them just sort of run in this order for a while and try to save as much time at that pit stop as they can.
And I'd say that was the next major point to consider. But within 3 seconds, these drivers set things together. See the difference in the cornering, feelability, and comfortability. Right now, the top 10 separate by about 6 seconds. Olivier and Ovando amongst those who've lost touch. Ryan Punchdale running on his own currently. All this is while Blake Ziti still has a decent cushion for the EMP lead, as you may notice on the pylon in 14. Now we'll see if Elliott White keeps the saving up this time with 23 estimated laps to go at the stripe. Already approaching 5 minutes off the clock this time around. Indeed, yes, just electing to save with the defensive line of Morales again.
Yeah, but Elliott might be forced into this move because Morales is defending and he's clearly a bit slower than Elliott through some of the low-speed sections, of which there are lots here at Interlagos. I think Elliott might feel the need to go on the attack. He'll be helped a bit by the fact that it's his teammate Krasowski behind him, so he knows that he is not going to come under too much threat from Daniel. But I think that if Morales really starts to hold him up, then Elliott might not have any choice, because I think that if he got past the BMW, he probably would have the pace to start pulling away.
But the whole choo-choo train sets things together. And at this point, I know it's early on here, but what do you think is going through the mind of, say, Modon or Espinosa at the tail end of this train, where one mistake and they lose touch to all these leaders in this race, or won too many battles?
Yeah, exactly. That is high pressure stuff, isn't it? Because that slipstream is powerful around here. It may only really be in effect through the final sector and the very start of the first sector, but it's still worth a lot of lap time and a lot of fuel save. As soon as you drop away from that, you start to struggle a lot. Espinosa, I think we've lost somewhere. I don't know whether he disconnected. I think I did see a car disappear as they were turning through turn 10 at Pico de Pato. Anyway, he has dropped out of the running order, so one less car to worry about. It's now a sort of 6-car lead train, back to Kolmodov in 6th. But yeah, he'll be keen not to lose touch with this leading group. You want to stay with the leaders, save some fuel, and run with them as fast as you can. Change for second there, though, Justin. Teammates perhaps working together?
Has to be. Maybe given a chance now with White to save off Grzelski or vice versa, or given a chance maybe for Grzelski to see if he can try something. Can confirm. Technical issues. Espinosa out of the race. Ryan Punchdale, meanwhile, has dropped all the way back into drafting range for Olivier, Avando, and Yip's pack. So the pace really slowing down for Punchdale on his own by upwards of half a second a lap.
Yeah, we haven't got that many of the Porsches on the grid. Same is true of the fixed race, but the ones we have seen haven't looked as strong as I expected, actually. I thought this would be a track that would suit the Porsche, but for whatever reason, we're not seeing Ryan Punchdale up there at the pointy end. But 7th is not bad. He'd like to stay there, but of course, he does have Dominic Olivier, Boris Angel Ovando right behind him. And more coming as well, including Blake Zidi, the AM leader. He's sort of in this group as well. So top 6 breaking away, and then everybody else forming a queue behind Ryan Punchdale in 7th.
A little bit of a different tone being set by some in this race compared to the fixed race, with a lot more strategy coming in. Here comes the chance for a move, though. The Audi trying to make a pass on the Mercedes AMG. Lando trying to get the run, just couldn't get it done. And now the Mercedes AMG of Olivier getting a much better boost, in fact, noticing down the straight.
Yes, but here comes the move. Maybe, no, Ovando not able to quite do it into the first corner. But 3 different cars here, Porsche, Mercedes, Audi, all of them generating their lap time in different ways. Rear engine Porsche, front engine Mercedes, mid engine Audi, and that's one of the fascinations of GT racing, really. And each of these cars will have certain areas of the track at which they excel, and perhaps areas where they struggle a little bit. We're heading into the part of the track that perhaps is going to suit the Audi better than the AMG, though. These tight technical corners coming up, that might present an opportunity for Ovando to make the move.
Remember, though, the major indicator of how difficult it is to pass here, you go side by side in a tight braking section, like Santa S, or even this section, it's 1 second you lose on the pass. And that's 1 second you then have to fight to get back. By the way, the separations between Pro and Am on the left side of your screen. Zidi still has the advantage by about 6 seconds over the 86. With Ford and Schroll, the top 4 in the Am class amongst those runners. All of those drivers within the points currently, as well as McGuinness.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 5-second gap that Blake Zidi has translates to several positions on the track. And remember, it's their overall finishing position that dictates how many points they will score ultimately. So going well so far for Blake as he continues to try and build on what's been a solid season for him so far. Had this tie, didn't we, coming into the this week's race between he and Turner Schroll. Well, Schroll only 4th in the class, and then David Mendonca, who was only a point further back, doesn't appear to be racing here at Interlagos, so he's going to drop out of contention. So Blake Zidi will certainly be feeling happy about how his race is going so far.
Take a look back towards that direction, in fact. You see Zidi amongst those with the viewpoint of this fight now going on. Dowski McLaughlin about those. Trying to look around the old car. Well, viewpoint of Vando has already lost touch now to Punchdale, Olivier, and Yip after being amongst that group for a split second or 10. McLaughlin up 6 spots so far. It says 5, but either way, he's gained a ball.
Yeah, he's had a strong race so far, and you can see that he's just waiting maybe for his opportunity here. You can see that this is a pretty tasty battle developing in front of him. sometimes it's better just to let the drivers get on with it, and eventually they may open the door for you. It certainly looks as though Ovando is struggling, maybe went a bit too hard, too fast on those tyres, and he is really now having to watch his mirrors, the Audi sliding around all over the place, and Nick McLaughlin will just be waiting, I think, to see how this situation sorts itself out and whether or not he's presented with a chance to come through.
This looks like a plotting phase. Or is he just trying to see what happens here? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think he was until he made a mistake at Chunsao. But yeah, I definitely think that he's in a good position here, and he knows it. You can see he wasn't really focusing too hard on making an overtake of his own, rather waiting to see if that opportunity presented itself. Which, given how much Ovando is struggling right now, I think that may well happen.
Of note, Jeremy Gonsalves has just pulled out of his car, so we're down to 33 cars currently running on the racetrack. Espinoza is currently watching from the paddock. Lehman has mandatory damage repair once those out of the event. Intriguingly enough, you may notice up on the pylon that Elliott White has dropped back nearly 2 seconds to the race lead as well, since letting Krasowski by, so several gaps starting to really form up, and not just amongst this pack. Some of these packs starting to splinter and fast.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it, though? Because Elliott was looking really quick when he was in second, and then really the moment that he allowed Krasowski through, you can see that he's dropped right away. So even more interesting given the fact they're teammates, right? So they're both in the same car. They'll both be running, you would have thought, the same setup or very similar. And yet one car going a lot quicker than the other right now. This could be tactical from Elliott. He might just be saving a bit more fuel, maybe, or just really looking after the tyres, but he'll be a bit concerned maybe now to have dropped so much time, and might have to look at doing something a bit different in the pit stops to try and get that time back.
Let's keep an eye on it. He's now lost another 4/10 in the past lap alone. Aren't crisp amongst those with Sean Dickinson from Sim City. We're looking to see if they can build a tower over top White, be able to get past White, and then take that respective tower and sail off away. I'm trying to do SimCity references, okay?
Oh, that's what you were going for, I have to say. I enjoyed that. Remember, this is a championship battle as well here between White and Dickinson. They're top two in the points right now. Raymond Yip third is all the way down in 9th place at the moment. Carl Modoff fourth in the points. Martin Crisp fifth. So you've got 4 of the top 5 drivers in the points here running nose to tail, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th positions. So whilst they're not necessarily fighting tooth and nail for positions now, I think if they're all this close together in another 20 minutes time, then we could be in for quite a show.
That's to say, no mistakes coming to play, no hold-ups on pits, and better yet, who tries the same gamble on tires? Better yet, is that going to become the more commonplace as you thought about earlier? We'll have to keep an eye on this with the track temp. We're about 6 laps, or rather 6 minutes away from the halfway point as well. Once we reach that point, expecting a lot of drivers to consider the pit stop strategy that is the usual mark for some in the series. But still, no run for Dickinson, no run close for Crisp, no run for Modoff as they continue to try and see if there's a way to close up the 2 and nearly 3-second gaps.
Yeah, and as strong as that toe is up that hill, you have to suspect there's a little bit of half-throttling going on here for the likes of Dickinson, Crisp and Modoff. I mean, White has definitely lost the toe to the top 2, so Elliott, if he's saving fuel, he's having to work doubly hard to do that. Or with Sean Dickinson, well, a little bit of lift and coast maybe into Junsao, but that was pretty normal. It's up the main drag past the pits that I'd be interested to ride on board, because you saw even down the relatively short back straight towards turn 4 there, the slipstream really closed them in, and yet up past the pits last time the gaps didn't really seem to come down. So that's what makes me suspect that there is a lot of fuel saving going on here, and that does make me worried for Sean Dickinson. He's not able to do that as effectively, you would think, and that might leave him with a slightly longer pit stop in a few minutes time.
Major thought process. Krasowski, keep in mind, has been in the midst of a fuel save behind Morales since closing up by half a second as well. All the cat and mouse games and all the chess matches starting to really come into play potentially in the next few minutes. I'm still amazed, though, at how ZD's done this race today, to the point where he's got that advantage, though, on the M class, to where no one else has been able to get close to him in the packs. That's extremely important for ZD's championship hopes, too, in the M side, compared to the championship fight on the pro side.
No, exactly, and I think that if he can stay in 13th, that would be his season best finish. He's had a couple of 16th place finishes, I think, in the last 2 races, scoring 15 championship points, so they would be his best finishes so far, and running a really strong 13th at the moment overall. This is Ted Lowendick, who's running 13th within his class, and as always, keeping us entertained with his backdrop there. Finds new and inventive ways to present himself on camera, and he looks as though he's concentrating pretty hard now in 13th place, as he's got the AM class leader right in front.
I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen that green screen yet. My goodness. I forgot about the shoey. I believe there's been the shoey from him. Someone else did a shoey with maple syrup. There's been a lot of shoeys in the series.
Yes, I think there's a certain Australian who's got a lot to answer for when it comes to starting that trend. Oh, he's got around Ted. No, what a time to jump on board with him. And his facial expression doesn't change that much, but just lost the rear there, going down through turn 9. We've seen a few people do that already tonight.
You can kind of tell with the disgust on his own face. He is not happy that he sent the 10-line car off the circuit for a minute. And just like that, it goes from the train about 10th to 14th overall back to 18th spot.
Oh dear. Well, that would happen when we jumped on board with him, wouldn't it? That was pretty typical, really. So Ted Lowendick losing a few places, but he'll bounce back, I'm sure. Had a bit of fun with myself and Ewan O'Leary a few weeks ago when we were covering this championship together. Had a lot of fun with our names on that backdrop. Now there is Kwok Nin running second in class, and he's very relaxed as he drives along in the virtual reality headset, turning his way into the first few corners at the centre S's, and yeah, second in class, not quite on the pace of Blake Seedy, but I think he's having a good time regardless.
Yep, definitely having a good time, especially with that direct drive style wheel, the VR to be able to keep immersion filled. And the interesting is the rise of sim racing gloves. He's using gloves. We didn't, I believe, see them from McLaughlin earlier. Gloves or no gloves, Andy?
So I wear gloves, but that's because I don't have a Formula wheel. I find that the gaps in a Formula wheel, you can see that they're quite small where your fingers go, and the gloves sort of bulk your fingers up quite a lot. So tend to go without on a Formula wheel like that, but yeah, I've got soft, sensitive hands. I've not done a day's manual labour in my life, so I need to keep them protected when I'm putting in the hours on the sim.
So the Vaporworks Sim Sports car, despite missing half the season championship fight, still looking at the leaders now, approaching the halfway mark. Morales has led them all so far. Krasowski getting a little bit closer now with the window approaching, now within 3/10.
Yeah, latching on to the BMW, but I really don't think we'll see him try to pull a move here until perhaps the in-lap. He's quite content to save that fuel and try to make sure he has that shorter pit stop, because in theory, if he's saving more fuel than Morales, which surely he is, his pit stop will be shorter anyway, and therefore he'll probably pop out ahead of the BMW regardless. Doesn't really need to do the overtake on track where there is the risk of contact or getting delayed and falling back into the clutches of Dickinson, White and everyone else behind. So as much as we like to see wheel-to-wheel racing on the track, you can't really complain with the strategy here from Krasowski. He knows what he's doing, and I think that is probably the safest and most sensible bet. Just keep saving fuel and make the pass in the pits.
I was about to say, that might be the play here. I wouldn't be surprised that's the play with Dickinson, White, and Crisp, where Dickinson's now in third, by the way.
Yes, hadn't spotted that. Sean Dickinson into third, so I wonder whether that was a move by Dickinson or whether Elliott White let him go. I think it was probably a move from Dickinson because he's pulled a second on Elliott already, so I suspect maybe Sean just was a bit quicker and found a way through, but it'd be interesting to take a look at that if we could. Dickinson third, White already struggling to keep up with him. So for whatever reason, Elliott White's pace has really deserted him in the race.
By the way, the Dickinson pass was about 2 laps ago during lap 12. Taking an eye on some of the drivers with the M class and seeing how things were settling down with Ted, where Ted Lowendick went off the track. Brzezowski still keeping himself within track to keep the saving going. By the way, to the E6 car, Bucknan in for a scheduled stop. As expected, some coming in at the halfway mark. The Vaporworks car taking no tires here.
Yep, and again, that makes sense. He's got some time to try and make up on Blake Seedy if he wants to try and win the class, so doesn't really need to be taking on the tyres there. I wonder what we'll see from these leaders, though, because Krasowski, if he is able to have a shorter pit stop than Morales, yes, he would in theory take the race lead. Does he maybe look at that a different way and think, well, hang on, I could take tyres here and come out still behind Morales, but with a tyre advantage? That shorter pit stop gives you more options when it comes to what you can do, whereas Morales really is kind of stuck. He's got to try and go for the no tyre pit stop, I think, because I suspect his pit stop's going to be longer to start with.
Expecting these drivers to go about another 6 to 8 minutes likely based on the series trends in the past. He'll arc for the top 2. Still not close enough for the set. Brzezowski. And already hard save. Looks like towards the back groupings. Crisp trying to find a way to join his teammate. This time, Elliott White lets him have it. Off the inside through Senna S. Crisp keeping up with Dickinson for the podium.
Yeah, and again, that's just that decision being made by Crisp, really. He's been sat behind Elliott saving fuel, but he can see his teammate disappearing up the road. So when they want to make a pass, it's pretty easy just to get the slipstream and pull up the inside. That really shows that they have just been playing follow the leader, really, up until this point. But concerning times here for Elliott. He had that win at the very first round of the championship. Hasn't won since the Red Bull Ring, though. And doesn't really look like he's going to win here today. And actually, he had his first finish outside of the top 5 a week ago. He's had a non-finish earlier on, but of all the races he's finished, he'd always been in the top 5 until Long Beach. So is this a sign that he's losing momentum, perhaps at the worst point of the season?
Especially with so slim margins for the championship and no drop week to back himself for, like Dickinson as well. So this is important for Dickinson to run, and try and score strong points. Keep in mind, Crisp has the fastest lap, not Dickinson, for the extra bonus point.
And that is significant. Martin Crisp is tied on points with Carl Modoff for 4th at the moment and is running ahead of Carl right now. So already outscoring him. That extra point for the fastest lap will help as well. And into the pit lane comes, that's Crisp.
Martin Crisp electing to go for a different strategy. 15 laps in, the undercut coming in for those stretching it. Interesting play to come in at that lap. Thomas Dunn, the only other driver so far to come in on the lap.
Yeah.
And he's taking the tires.
Ah, okay, well that makes a bit more sense then, because if you're going to take tyres, you want to give yourself as long as you can on those fresh tyres for them to make a difference. So if that was always his plan, that makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, I was surprised to see him peel off that early, I must say.
An interesting thought with Crisp pit stop time, though. He only had about a 1 second longer stop than those who have already come in for fuel around that mark. In fact, he was even quicker than those who took tires from the fixed race. So a lot to consider now for the 957 on the rubber. Up to 10 estimated laps to go, 15 minutes up on the clock. Do we see a peel in for the top 2? They still have a 3-second buffer over Dickinson. Everyone using that esports line to set things up from June South. We'll see how these drivers play it out, or if they try and go an extra couple.
Yeah, I think they'll probably stretch it. There's an argument to say Morales could pit, because right now all he's doing is helping Krasowski save fuel. If he pitted, then life would suddenly become a bit harder for Daniel, but they both stay out onto the on the track. Sean Dickinson did come in though from 3rd, so Sean Dickinson a lap later than his teammate comes in, and I wonder if he'll deploy the same strategy as his teammate with tyres. I suspect he probably will.
Oh, and he had some issues in the pit stall, having to back up. He will take the tires, but that will cost Dickinson some time. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. Near Simler's pit stop time, but make it 3 seconds longer the lane because of that issue. Let's take a look at Olivier and company. Meanwhile, Punchtail still holding on in front of them.
Oh, such tight margins in this championship. You can't be making mistakes like that, can you? That's really going to cost him, unfortunately. And of course, it's not just the lead group that's running nose to tail. We've had this battle going on, led by Ryan Punchtail since the start. And again, they're as close as they always have been. And Punchtail, Olivier, Yip, Ovando, all running together. I think we've had a couple of pit stops from this group, which is why they've thinned out slightly. But fair play to Ryan, because he didn't look that strong earlier on, but he's fended off these seemingly quicker cars up until this point, and they'll be hoping to do so until the flag.
Off reaching about 1 second throughout the field last time by, for just about the entire pack. Oh, in trouble, Dickinson! Dickinson has just slammed the wall on the freshies. He had gone out in front of Chris despite the issue. Now he's really done it.
Well, let's see if we can find out what happened, but I wonder if he had a moment on cold tyres through the right-hander, and, well, he's neat and tidy through here. It's a bit later on that he has the moment, down through 8 and 9. So he's changed tyres, potentially just changed 2 tyres, and Will on the grass, so understeered wide maybe on those cold tyres, and it's you don't need to make much of a mistake, do you? Just one wheel on the grass, and off he went. I wonder, did he just pick up some understeer mid-corner, through the dip, on the throttle? Yeah, the front tyres aren't quite there yet, and that just put him out onto the grass. And from there was only one destination, that was the barrier.
A very inopportune time for that to happen. 10+ seconds lost. Dickinson out of contention for the victory as a result. Crisp, the first of those on fresher tires, is already fallen. Dickinson has behind Ovando by 6 seconds with that incident.
Well, big for the championship as well, because we were saying he was set to outscore Elliott White in this race. That probably no longer the case. So Elliott White still hasn't pitted, but will almost certainly now find himself ahead of Sean Dickinson, excuse me, when the pit stop cycle is complete. So Dickinson, yeah, he's dropped a long way back, and that could be a championship costing mistake.
The difference, though, is when it comes to the yellow number 2, we should note, no tires taken. Dickinson, mentioned, did take them. Leaders are in this time, 1 and 2 in the race. Elliott White is also coming in. Krzelski trying to line up his box. Morales going through every stall to get to pit box 1. No mistakes up there, and it looks like neither of them are taking the tires.
Yeah, none of these lead cars going up on the jacks, and look at that. Well, that was a quick pit stop from, that would have been Krzelski, was it then? But the gap goes out slightly, so Morales will hold on to a slightly bigger advantage. But really interesting then that none of the leaders feel the need for fresh tyres, so that simplifies things slightly, and it means that there's a good chance now that we will see Martin Crisp also lose some places. Yeah, he's going to come out behind the 2 Audis. So Crisp, who was 3rd before the stops, now 5th, but with those fresher tyres.
Nick McLaughlin, the only one yet to pit. By the way, there was just an issue we should know. Coming out of the pit lane, Dominic Olivier lit up his tires, and Raymond Yip and Ryan Punchtail have lost several seconds because of a stack-up coming down the hillside through the pit exit. So those drivers are all still running. Yip has already passed Olivier since that respective issue. They had taken a lot less fuel compared to others. And then this is going to be after Olivier's stop where all that goes for naught. And Olivier's not having fun in live action. He's spun it again. So 2 spins for Olivier and half a lap.
Oh dear, well, sometimes these things can snowball, can't they, slightly? So, interesting difference in strategies there between these 3 cars, and there was the spin, and a bit of a stack-up. No, not too much damage done, really. But Ryan Punchtail losing some time in the pits there, interestingly, came in ahead of those 2, and came out behind them both.
As mentioned, Olivier also had a 2nd spin of the lap. Nick McLaughlin, his teammate, coming on in. So This closes out the pit window, so the 99 has lost several spots as here comes some battling on the track. Grzelski tried the switch back through Senna S, now has the run on Morales. It's go time with under 7 estimated laps to go.
Yeah, no fuel saving now, no tyre management. This is a straight up race for the victory. And Grzelski's done a good job to close in on Morales. Remember, that gap was getting close to a second when they came out of the pit lane. So within a lap, the Audi driver has closed right in. And now it is all guns blazing. He wants to try and get this lead as quickly as he can. Has he got the pace to do so? We suspected he did in the first part of the race. It's now time to prove it.
Right now they have a 4.5 second cushion over Elliott White, Carl Moldoff, Martin Crisp. Grzelski with 6 laps to try and size it up on the BMW. It's not going to be easy, as we've seen all night long, to take the lead. The best pass opportunities we've seen coming out of Curva de Sol up to 4. Meanwhile, Blake Seedy, top driver in AM, battling for what is 11th overall currently.
Yeah, so Blake's picked up 2 places from where he was earlier on. He was 13th, don't forget, now up into 11th, so this would definitely be a season high finish for him if he can stay there. 10th place as well is Sean Dickinson, who we know is carrying damage, so could Blake Seedy get himself into the top 10 outright by the end of this race? That would be a really, really impressive run if he could do it. And I don't think we've seen an AM driver make the top 10. In fact, perhaps once. I think Turner Stroll might have had a top 10 back at Magny Kerr, but not many of them getting into the top 10, and Blake Seedy could do it tonight.
Stroll did score his best points there, I will say, the best points overall from around. It wasn't a top 5 though, it was close. Still keep an eye on Grzelski, heading to the middle sector. Still needing to find a way forward, 2-3 tenths back, much deeper on the brakes again compared to the BMW with the different lineup. Grzelski looking for a way to poke his way around with about 5 estimated to go at the stripe.
Yeah, looking for a way through, but we know that Morales is going to defend this pretty strongly. Doesn't have a championship to worry about, does Diego? He's just going to try and defend as well he can. But for Grzelski, really, he needs this good result. He's 34 points off in the championship, but Elliott White is in 3rd place, so right now only outscoring him by a couple of points, and he really could do with this race win. Gets a nice run though through Junsao. This is the best opportunity Grzelski has had so far. He had the better exit, he's got the slipstream, but look at the horsepower of that BMW.
Junsao has been a major struggle point at times for Morales. Now it's the matter of Grzelski trying to set it up for Senna S. Through 15, coming down the starting straight. Under 7 minutes to go. Grzelski trying to open through the door. No, not able to keep that door pried open and not close enough to be able to even jump through it before it slams.
It is the hardest thing to do to overtake a car that is quicker than you down the straights, because you can have all the mid-corner speed in the world. You can't physically drive through the BMW, and I think Grzelski is finding this tricky now. You saw it from on board. He came off Junsao much quicker than Morales, but could not gain on him even in the slipstream. The BMW was pulling away, so that means that Grzelski is going to have to get creative here, perhaps try and surprise him through this middle sector, or maybe force a mistake out of the BMW. He could not be closer through Ferradura. Looks to the inside line, tries it, but couldn't quite commit, and the door was closed.
Now we get into the back end of the race leader. Grzelski forced to reset again. Up through the middle portions, up to turn 10 again. Then a fierce battle for parts of this race. Grzelski now gets a bit of a poke, bit of a slide back for Morales. Trouble in 5th position as well. Carl Modoff's gone off the track. The leaders keep scrapping with about 4 to go, as there goes Modoff and there go the leaders heading to the final sector.
Another championship frontrunner in trouble then. Carl Modoff dropping down into 7th. Looks like he might just keep McLaughlin at bay. But here comes Grzelski again. A similar sort of distance between the BMW and the Audi as we saw a lap ago. But how brave can he be on the brakes? Finally, as they come out of turn 15, you can see the gap starts to come down, but that's just too little too late. He can't get alongside. And Morales knows that as long as he places the car on the inside, he's good. There's a definite tap in the tail that time through turn 1. Grzelski starting to feel the frustration.
Patience meter starting to grind away, starting to wear thin. Under 5 minutes to go. Morales taking the middle line, heading down the straight at the seat of Interlagos. Kozlowski dead even through the brake marks, dead even on the throttle points. A little bit wider for Morales. 3.5 estimated laps to go in the race.
This is good stuff. Really good battle between Morales and Kozlowski, but Daniel is not going to want to settle for second place. They're 5 seconds clear of Elliott White. He's not going to catch them unless they really start holding each other up. So it is just between these two. And Kozlowski running out of time, and all of the traditional overtaking opportunities here at Interlagos not really available to him because of the power of the BMW. Launches up the inside. That is almost contact again into turn 10, and somehow Morales hangs on.
Kozlowski has to back out of the gas. Went through some of the marbles. Kozlowski now has to reset, under 4 minutes to work with. Very much through the esports line, nearly running off the track. They try to utilize it so much. Now they come up the hillside, heading up through 14 and 15. Looking to try and close up. Kozlowski half a second back. 5 seconds to cushion over White and Crisp.
Yeah, that was a bit of a costly mistake, actually, for Kozlowski. Sort of half committed to the move, and then, like you said, got dirt on the tyres and found himself struggling a bit. Carl Modoff's been off again, though, and he's down into 11th. That might now become 12th, even 13th. So Carl Modoff's race really unravelling.
It's extremely unraveled now. It's an incident point infraction for car 948. Let's take a look at why.
So, up to Ferradura. And
It's the first one.
okay, so there's been multiple then. Through the right-hander, over the curb, and swings into the right-hander at turn 8. But Carl Modoff, I think, really just the handle going away on this Audi, and yet loops it through turn 9. Again, not the first person to do that today, but that spin and subsequent run onto the grass.
Right in live action.
Oh,
Morales has spun around from the race lead with under 3 minutes to go with the help of Kozlowski's bumper.
wow. Well, I already know what we're going to see here. Yep, there we go. He's tried that a few times and bailed out of it. And that time, he didn't bail out of it. That was a very late move, and I don't think that that's going to be looked on too fondly by the stewards.
It had closed up to 2/10 to under 2/10, and then section here, they nearly have touched 3 times here.
There just isn't a gap. There is never a gap up the inside line there. Kozlowski made the gap, but only by spinning the BMW around, and I think that was that frustration building up. He knew that he was quicker than Morales, but just could not get through at the traditional points on the track, and in the end went for a bit of a rash move. Martin Crisp into second place as well. So all change into the final couple of laps.
Crisp again taking tires, and now it becomes a couple questions. How will this play out post-race? How will this play out in the case of Crisp if he gets to Kozlowski? Is there even enough time to get there? He has only a lap and a half to try and get up there, 3.7 seconds back.
I just don't think that's enough time, but it's been a good recovery this actually for Martin, and a significant one for the championship too, with some of those around him in the points having difficult days today. So on board with Kozlowski, it could become a win, of course, couldn't it, if Kozlowski were to be handed a post-race penalty of some sort. Significantly as well, Sean Dickinson just noticed moving back into 7th place, so even with a wounded Lamborghini, he's able to pick up another place. That's another valuable championship point.
A lot to consider now amongst this field as we take a look back towards this train. Dickinson has gotten in front of McLaughlin, the biggest mover in the top 10 plus 10. Blake Ziti still holding on to 9th position here too, so solid recovery for Dickinson after his crash. Of note, another infraction just picked up an incident points. Fonseca black flag coming to the final 30 seconds or so.
I'm surprised to see so many of them going over their instant limits around here. I know there are some places where you can exceed track limits pretty easily, but I don't recall covering one of these races before and seeing this many going over the limit. So I think that is just a sign of how hard they're pushing and how tricky the track conditions are today. That's definitely thrown a bit of a curveball at the drivers tonight. These really hot track conditions making their life very difficult indeed.
Marty the Flagman now waving the white flag this time around. Kozlowski still leading by 3.5 seconds nearly over Martin Crisp. Crisp, looking to see if he can pick up some valuable points after some of the kerfluffles today over Krzelski and company. And with Krzelski and company, the better point of that. Half a lap to go. Crisp looking for the podium. White looking for a valuable third spot.
Yeah, Elliott White somehow is going to get a podium out of this race, and I don't think many of us would have predicted that in the first half of the race when he was slipping back almost towards 6th place before the pit stop. So Elliott White has played this really well and avoided some of the incidents around him. I don't think he's going to be caught by Morales here at the end, so that is the way you win championships ultimately. If you can't win, try to somehow salvage a podium, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
After some bumping and banging up through the second sector, Daniel Krzelski will take the checker flag from Interlagos, PRL GT3 Sprint Series powered by VCO. Krzelski immediately coming to a stop after what happened to the battle for the race win. Crisp in White second and third. Morales and Yip amongst the battlers in the top 5. Ovando, Dickinson, McLaughlin. Blake Seedy, though, coming across the line with a top 10 and an AM victory.
Yeah, it's a brilliant performance that from Blake Seedy, getting himself into the top 10, 9th place on the day, and I think that is the joint highest finish for an AM driver so far this season. Karl Modoff will scrabble across the line in 15th position. He'll be really disappointed. Quite a few championship contenders, I think, will be leaving Interlagos a little bit disappointed with how things have gone.
More battles to finish off the run. How about some drag races towards the stripe for some? Anderson amongst those getting a little bit handsy with the bumpers towards the line. Still one more battle. Hilton trying to peel McGuinness off the bottom of the racetrack. Their contact, drag race at the stripe. They rub it. At the line, it's Hilton by 1,000th of a second.
That's fantastic. It doesn't have to be for a race win, does it, to be exciting? Those two drivers will have felt like they were fighting for a race win, and it gave us our closest finish probably of the season so far. Fantastic stuff, and Matt Hilton just managing to get there on the inside line.
A little bit of rubbing and a little bit of banging, and it gets the job done for 6th spot in the AM class today. Those do count for some points towards the bottom portion of the top 30 of scorers. So a lot to consider after what was a pretty wild night. Closing stages more so here for this evening's action for the Sprint Series. A lot to talk about. With Daniel Krzelski taking the checker flag, unofficially the winner. 3.3 seconds, nearly 3.4 Crisp. Elliott White in what could have been for Morales. Contact nearly 3 times. The 4th time was the charm. Pole sitter gets shuffled to 4th. Yep. Ovando, Dickinson, McLaughlin, and then Blake Seedy, the M winner in 9th overall. Punchdell, 9th in Pro, 10th overall tonight. 11th spot went to Carmody. The Ted Lowendick, a good recovery from his issues early to get back to 12th. Dunn, Larson, Spears in 15th. An interesting situation for Modoff. Apparently, he had burned his right rear tire to 28%. Hence the issues at the end. He still finishes 16th. Zelski walked in along with Thunderhorst and Fonseca the top 20. Then the second best AM car of the day. Majority of the AM entrants finished in the 20s today. Chase Brown finished in front of Turner Schroll, Conaway, Anderson, Brown, Rhines, Hilton, and McGuinness in the drag race. Thurman and Morse around the tail end of the lead lap. They were the last drivers in the lead lap. Dominic Olivier had mandatory repairs and a black flag to end the race. Woodford finished in 32nd. Lehman, after his mandatory repairs, did finish 33rd. Caruso parked it, 15 laps to go in 34th. Salvas with 20 to go in 35th. Espinoza, after technical issues, did not return, 23 laps down. That's what top to bottom on tonight's running order. Unofficial, once again, is the key word to consider in this one. Has a lot to talk about, especially with Daniel Krzelski. Daniel, what happened in the contact?
Yeah, that was very unfortunate, but I didn't know what to do. You know, that car, that BMW was so fast, there's nothing I could do to even pull on him in a straight. And, you know, when he's down on pace that much and going defensive end every corner, you got to expect some sort of, you know, risk to the battling. I didn't actually try to spin him or anything intentionally. That was very unfortunate. So I don't know. My win will probably be taken away, but other than that, it was a good race.
So the interesting thing about the race today was a bit of strategy coming up, especially with the fuel save. How would you describe the strategy for a track like this tonight compared to some of the others, especially with the track temp?
So I was saving, the strategy was to save the tires and the fuel. So I was lifting quite a bit behind him. The unfortunate thing is that I was driving the BMW here this week because it was the fastest car, and I really didn't have any experience on fuel load in the Audi. And when I pulled into the pits, it was actually a lot higher than I expected it to be. And if I pulled out in front of him, I would probably have to add a liter or two because I wouldn't have draft. But I was very surprised he pulled out in front of me at the same time. You know, with how much fuel I was able to save, for him to pull out of there at that time, it was surprising.
So, Road America's up next in a couple weeks' time after Valentine's Day. Your opinions on the National Park of Speed?
Really fun track. I should do well there, as long as the car is good there.
See indeed if it is or not. Congratulations on the finishing position. We'll see how post-race goes.
Thank you.
And that's Daniel Krasowski coming away across the stripe in first tonight after what was a firework affair for the battle towards the win. Meanwhile, when it comes to second overall tonight, Martin Crisp now joins us. He's with Andy.
Yeah, Martin joining me now. Second place at the end of that race. And you really seem to go about it differently, your team, the strategy in that race. Really the only ones to take on tyres at the pit stop. Were you surprised that more people didn't try and do the same thing?
Yeah, we discussed it ahead of time, and we felt that it was quicker taking two right side tires. You'll notice I came in about 3 laps early too, but unfortunately I got in traffic. I was hoping the extra pace of the new tires would put me a little further ahead, but the traffic, I just misjudged that, so that was on me. But yeah, we felt we were quicker with 2 tires, and you saw at the end there, the guys that were ahead of me, they just couldn't hang on to their cars. I mean, I assume they didn't take tires. It looked like they didn't take tires, but that was the strategy.
Yeah, as far as we could tell, really, it was just a pair of SimCity Racing Lamborghinis that took the tyres, at least of the front runners, and that almost worked. Not quite good enough for a race win, but second place, some more good points, and some others at the front of the championship not having a great day today. 2 weeks to go, Martin. Do you think you're still in this conversation for the championship?
Oh, I'm not in the conversation for the championship, but, just trying to get our team points up there as high as possible. And I got to stop starting races in third gear like I did tonight. So you may have noticed I dropped way back at the start. I forgot to shift it into first like an idiot. But yeah, look, it's a good fun. It's a great league. The racing is really, really good and clean. And I just love hanging out in this league. So it's just good fun. Enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, we really enjoy watching you as well, Martin. Congratulations. A really, really strong drive. Good tactical decisions made. We'll see you again at Road America.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Martin Crispen netting himself a second place finish here at Interlagos. And I think he was pretty happy with that, Justin.
Thinking so indeed with this run. In third spot overall tonight, it was Elliott White. Elliott, solid podium position, but it looked like for part of the race, there was some struggles. What was happening towards that middle portion before the speed started to kick back up?
Yeah, just the rear tires were gone. I tried to set up the cars to avoid that happening, but with the heat, I think it was inevitable. I don't know what Martin and Sean had in their Lambos, what they were hauling.
Well, when it comes to Martin Crisp, he took tires. When it comes to Sean, he took tires. With the context now, would you have taken tires? Why or why not? Now knowing that.
To be honest, I hadn't even it didn't even cross my mind, but that is a good idea. Yeah, I mean, it just haven't done it in any sprint race since the update, and I guess this would have been a smart place to do it. But I don't know what happened to Sean in the pits. He had some kind of issue, probably not related to the tire, but I just got pretty lucky.
It was not related to the tire. and it was not related to the pit exit. We'll put it that way. But now, with tonight, with the troubles in turn with Dickinson after his stop, and actually coming in front of Crisp at one point, gaining a few more points here, 2 races to go, the championship tight, both of you with no drops available with the DNFs earlier in the season. Your thoughts on the championship tilt between you and SimCity Racing, Sean Dickinson?
Yeah, that's kind of on the forefront of my mind. I mean, I basically didn't really take a battle that entire race. Just trying to manage the points gap now after last week where I kind of threw a decent amount of it away. So yeah, that's the goal for the rest of the season. I mean, I'm not super concerned about wins, but I would like to win the championship.
Once again, congratulations on the podium, Elliott. Strong run at the end.
Thank you guys, appreciate you.
That's Elliott White rounding out the top 3. Also taking the time to speak with us during the post-race coverage is your M-Class winner car. Blake Ziti did really well today. He cooked up a lot of speed on the track. The highest running AM driver by a mile, Andy.
Yeah, that's right, Blake. Huge congratulations getting into the top 10. We think that's only the second time all season that an AM has made it into the top 10 overall. What was your secret today?
To be honest, I put about 22 hours, so I expected to be up there. I've been trying to learn how to make setups, and I've had a lot of help with some of these pros, Sean Dickinson being one guy, and Dom Oliveri. So it's been these guys have been helping me out a lot, and it's obviously paying off. But we also had a lighter field, so I think I have that pace to that a little bit.
That's interesting to hear then, because some of these pros might regret all the help they're giving you, because we're likely to see you moving into the pro class at this rate. But that really does seem to be the kind of vibe that I get from this league. You know, there's a really high level of competition on the track, but there's a lot of cooperation and a lot of fun to be had away from the track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sean's been really a helpful guy. I mean, you ask a question, he's not gonna tell you how to do it, but he tells you, what's what and what's gonna do what. And I applied it, and it seemed to work. I definitely think that the Ferrari and this particular track at elevation, being that we got the turbo, I think it lended itself to this track. I mean, hopefully, I think next week's Road of America, and I could try to be up in that top 10 again. That'd be what I'm hoping for, at least.
And that is important as well because of this new point system now where your overall finish, that dictates how many points you score. So it's important that you try and break into that top 10. You scored several more points today than your AM class rivals. It was so tight in that AM championship that could make a big difference.
Yeah, I drove myself a little crazy today. Like I said, I think I put like 22 hours in on this one track, just trying to really learn setup, not so much the track, but I wanted to put a hurting on that class because we've been fluctuating. I did the top 4 with within 1 or 2 points, so it was driving me a little mad. I'll be able to get some sleep tonight knowing that I got a lot of cushion going into the last 2.
Absolutely. You've earned some rest, I think, but get that practice in for Road America as well. It's not quite won yet, but certainly one step along the way to the championship. Blake, congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
So Blake Ziti then gets the AM class win, the hard work netting him the reward in the end, Justin.
It's been intriguing the night, to say the very least. Valentine's Day is next week, so drivers will have a week off before their next race on the schedule, Road America. When it comes to Road America, it should be intriguing after what we've seen in the comparison to Brazil, and your quick thoughts on the US stop of the calendar.
Yeah, one of my favourite racetracks, always a good one for producing exciting racing, the long straights, the slipstreaming. We'll get some close finishes, I think, at Road America, but we'll really see that fuel saving coming in as well. Those long straights are made for lifting and coasting, and I think they could be a pair of really strategic races as well.
This track, in turn, will be seen next time out for the series. We head to Road America and the state of Wisconsin on February the 21st. The action estimated to start once again, approximately 8:30 p.m. Eastern here on RaceSpot and VCO. But until that moment, it's time to say goodbye for tonight's action for the PRL, for the GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series powered by VCO. Thank you once more for my co-announcer tonight, Andy McEwen, for our producer, Connery Maddock. I'm Justin Prince saying so long enjoy your Valentine's Day. We'll see you next time from Wisconsin.